All right. This right here is the Devil's Work podcast. We're a podcast that's very calm and collective for the most part, and we watch very fucked up movies, so you don't have to. You can, you should, but you don't have to, because we're going to talk about it today, and today is quite a contentious one. I'm being very calm. My demeanor is very smooth. I'm trying to give you a very jazz opening, a very adult jazz setting, because we're going to get into some heated debates. This has been one that we've been contemplating on for months, if not years, arguably now. But the steamy contention has been so rampant that we've put it off. And today, the drama, the true slop drama that you want from online content is here for you. And all I gotta say with that is, oh no, there's a YouTube ad. Oh no! Oh, was that ruined? All right, shut up. I can take the ad now.
Clip that. Chat, clip
Shut up.
that.
Clip that. Chat, clip that. Chat. He's
Wait, you're gonna ruin it.
What?
There we go. It's fucking time. Let's fucking go, boys. That wasn't a complete and utter failure at all.
Yeah.
So with that, we're gonna hope for not another YouTube ad, and we're gonna say, hey.
Yeah, for those watching on the Zoom call, I don't know, man. I don't know what happened.
That was a complete and utter failure.
There you go.
I planned that out for a good 30 minutes before it started. There was no prep for that. I'm sorry.
Oh my god! Welcome to the show, you guys. This is gonna be a very, very fucking special episode for 2/3 of us, and we'll come out stronger on the other side of this one. This is I'm very, very excited to be doing this episode. This is a movie that is very special to me. And I will get into all of that while we actually get into, because it's going to be a long one. Very long one for a couple of reasons. Mostly, though, it's going to be me just gushing about this movie. But we are covering 2015's Green Room, directed by Jeremy Saulnier. This is probably, I've said this a couple of times in the realm of just research this week, doing my notes and everything. It is my favorite movie, and that's a lot to say for someone who does a horror movie podcast. But this is my favorite movie, and I will give several reasons why. And Chad will be wrong for a lot of this episode, so be prepared for that.
This is a special episode for me for the opposite reason.
This is gaslighting the episode.
This is one that we've talked about since the beginning. And the reason we've put it off for so long is that we know for a fact we're going to argue.
Yep.
But, we love each other. We're going to come out stronger on the other side.
Absolutely.
Or Austin's going to have to alternate weekends.
I was going to say, this is literally going to be perfect for me. I'm the perfect candidate. I'm so glad you asked me onto the show back in last January because this is just my childhood, it's just mommy and daddy fighting and me, the 6-year-old, mediating.
Mommy and daddy fighting.
I need to calm down the adults here. I'm so good at this. It should be on my resume. Parenting parents. Oh my God. I'm so
I wouldn't say it's my least favorite movie ever. It's definitely not the worst movie I've ever seen. But it's definitely
down there.
But it's probably, if we're talking just horror movies, oh God, even that. Yeah, maybe bottom 10. I wanted to say 5, but okay. I think but that's hyperbolic. That's crazy to say.
Yeah.
Before in terms of films that I'm willing to actually intellectually engage with, let's put it that way.
You have no 10. Choice but to do that on this one.
Yeah. No, but I mean it's not.
No, I get what you're saying though. I understand. It's not one that you're gonna revisit after the show.
Well, I just mean it's not even I have to admit it's not one that's just absolute complete dreck. I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying.
It's not a C movie sexploitation slasher. Those would really be the actual factual bottom five worst horror movies of all time. That's what I mean. It's like, let's discount all of the like
for sure,
actual garbage.
Absolutely.
Before we really
then,
get into it, though, I have a question for Chad. Have you, because this is the director's second like feature movie.
I have not seen Blue Ruin.
That is really what I think would draw you into this movie. And without getting into it, the way this guy writes characters really reflects in like everyone has their own style, and like he has a visual style, of course, within both of these movies, but it's more so his style is just the way characters act like real people in rash decision making. And I think you would actually really like Blue Ruin, because as much as this is a thriller, it very much leans into the horror and the shock, and that is much more a slow burn thriller with more shocking parts, much like if you've seen The Guest.
I could see Blue Ruin.
I think that one would win you, because it's where he's going with this.
I think we need to get into it, because I couldn't disagree more. I feel like this guy didn't write one single character in this movie. I didn't think one of these people was a person at all. So let's get into it.
All right. Well, I will say before we go further, I was lucky enough to actually go see this on the big screen recently this year for Sound and Fury Fest. They had it in LA leading up to the festival itself. They had different events that they were like sponsoring that night. So they had a comedy show that I want to go see. I just went to go watch the B and Ian with Jordan podcast. I went to go watch Green Room at Brain Dead Studios in Fairfax. It was a lot of fucking fun. Right as soon as I walked in, they were blaring hardcore on the speakers, and I was like, I think I might just be home. I don't know. Like, this might be the happiest place I've ever been in my life, you know? It was a trip to watch this on a big screen for the first time, because like I said, I've seen this countless times. I lost count. I mean, I watched it probably like 3 times this week alone. And I'll just do that from time to time just as a comfort movie. That's just how this has been for me for years since I first watched this. And seeing it in a room full of people was so rewarding, because they got all the right beats, all of the fucking the shock parts, the comedy bits, everything about it stood out so much in that room. And then Jeremy Saulnier actually was there doing a Q&A that was coordinated by the Hardlore podcast guys, which shout out to them. I love Hardlore. That's such
Twisted
a fucking fun,
Tongues.
Such a fucking good podcast.
Twitching Tongues. God, I'm a fucking
yeah,
poser.
Yeah.
Jesus. I saw them alive. Like, I don't know who they are. Jesus Christ.
It was, but it was fucking great, dude. And then, like, some of the cast was there that night. So I actually got to meet some of the cast from this movie in person. Couldn't be sweeter guys. Absolutely the sweetest individuals. And it's hilarious because they play the most evil motherfuckers in the movie. And it is so much fun to watch that, like, dichotomy. But
I definitely got that feeling that Big Justin is like a big teddy bear.
Absolute teddy bear. Yeah, 100%.
He's like,
same with
don't break out of this womb.
who's homie? We're gonna get into it, but the actor that played the other Nazi, like
Macon
his name's
Blair?
like Mavis. Yeah, I was gonna say Mavis Bacon, but that guy.
yeah, Macon Blair.
She teaches typing. I believe.
Macon is so fucking good in this, and
but that guy just seems.
He's in a lot of Saulnier's movies.
He's the lead in Blue Ruin. Is why when this was coming out, I remember I went to a horror convention in 2014, and then they were doing promos for this movie, and posters were everywhere. And it was a local one in Detroit, and I was super excited, just given the themes of like punk culture and like horror. And like that guy, watching Blue Ruin after seeing Green Room, I just love that guy. That guy is like one of my favorite, like that guy from That Thing actors. Like such a great actor, but so underrated. And he seems so like nice, like you were saying. He seems so like wholesome when you meet him.
Oh yeah, he absolute sweetheart. Yeah, they were so locked in with the conversation that I was having with them. They were great guys, absolute sweethearts. But again, like this, and we'll go into it. The reason that night was so important to me was that it was a celebration of not just my favorite movie, but it is also my favorite genre of music. It is punk rock. It is hardcore punk rock. And it is all of that world that we were just kind of stewing in and just kind of celebrating the culture of by just going and watching a movie. you know, and it was like that was a huge thing where it's this massive crossover of both of my deepest loves in life. It is movies and music, and having this being the bridge for both of those to like have this great crossover. I think that's why it is my favorite film, but more importantly, the effect that this movie has had on me is why it makes it so profound in my opinion, and in
Yeah.
my opinion alone, apparently.
Yeah. Well, no, not alone. Not alone.
No,
Because like
I'm
you
the
say,
only person on earth who doesn't like this movie.
This
I can't I like cannot find someone else who agrees with me whatsoever, and it blows my mind because as someone who's like done a lot of touring, I'm like, yeah, this is like such a cartoonish version of that. And then
Mhm.
I've seen people go like, yeah, bro, I've been on tour. It's just like this, and I'm
Mhm.
just like, what in the fuck?
well,
Yeah, there are tours that are like this though.
I got some bombs to drop on you, buddy.
Yeah.
I got some facts and some knowledge that don't care about your feelings, as one would say. And
Yeah.
we'll get to that. But I do gotta say, like Joey said, the culture. This is just a movie. If you were growing up, Jesus, if you were growing up with the Minions, no. But if you grew up in that culture, if you like, since I was like a early teenager, I've just been saturated in the hardcore scene, like the local music scene. Like this is just so. I don't want to say heartwarming is a feeling that I get from Green Room, but it's so comforting in that aspect while it's also so dour and just cold and hopeless. There's so much just comfort in like this movie isn't made by people making a movie about punk music. Like this doesn't feel like it's made by some exec in a suit. This feels like it was made by someone that just understands and cares about this thing and they want to make a movie around it. Yeah.
It's crazy because I feel like these people have never been don't know. I couldn't disagree more. I could not possibly disagree more.
How they act, I'm not talking about that, but just like a lot of the set design and shit, like the way it looks.
There's a point where they just go like Nazis. There's Nazis everywhere. What are we gonna do about it? And I'm just like, what in the fuck? Like,
no, they're saying skins at every show, which is very true. Growing up in this fucking scene, they're absolutely.
I've never been to or thrown a punk show, and I've done a lot of both, where there have been Nazis, specifically because if there ever were, we would have kicked the shit out of them.
Oh yeah,
so it's crazy that they're just like, there's Nazis everywhere.
I gotta say, from where I live, from where I live here, dude, we have like our DTE Energy Theater, like one of our big stadiums in Clarkston, Michigan. And that's close enough to Howell, which you just Google Howell, Michigan, and just Google what they're famous for. That's like a hub for that type of person. And we do, like, I'd go to Mayhem Fest like late high school, early college years, and there'd just be V formation, like boots and braces, no shirt, thick bar tattoo swastika, like straight up, like, and like you see the C part of the crowd, and I'm like, what the fuck's that? Gotta move. Like it's very real, but it's rare. Like I didn't see it a lot, but I've seen it enough. And like I've seen Slayer in Michigan. You see it in the crowd.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that was about the most.
That was the year that I saw them in that V formation too. Slayer was headlining Mayhem. Ironically, I didn't think about that until now.
It is a lot different at like a big show as opposed to like a show at Gilman. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like a show thrown, because like a Slayer show, there's suits and there's execs and there's contract.
Of course.
Like, there's a lot of stuff involved in that. It's a huge show. They're not interested in keeping those kinds of people out. $1's $1 to them, you know. But as far as like a fucking, you know, DIY punk show in the East Bay, you're not going to see
for sure. And I also, I will say too, you guys are a hell of a lot more progressive up there.
When I hear San Fran, the last thing I think of is neo-Nazi.
You know, but there are still a bunch
they're still up there for sure.
We just don't let them into anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
but that's the thing with this one, it plays with that aspect of it. Again, we were just talking about in the last episode we just recorded, heightened reality. It is.
I will say Oregon is a lot more fucking racist than you think.
Oh yeah.
Like their constitution, like their state Constitution or whatever, like had like still to this day has shit in it about like what to do if you like run into a runaway slave. Like
Jesus
Oh
it's
fucking
shit!
Christ,
I
dude.
didn't know that. Oh
God
my
damn, dude.
god!
yeah,
Yeah.
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 But
But I
you're
mean,
also playing on home turf in this movie is the thing, which you
mhm.
with a brain that works would never think, hey, I'm going to just go chill at this neo-Nazi bar. But it
Yeah.
is them on their own grounds, staying away from people and keeping to themselves in a way. Like this is their hub. So it's like the idea of like being
Exactly.
thrown into this and being like, fuck, well, we're here. And then just shit hits the fan because
And
of
you have the
course it does.
desperation aspect of it too, where they're like at literally the end of their fucking line. They don't have any money to even get back home. They just have to fucking like siphon gas, like they were
Yeah.
talking about. So like all
but
of that.
apparently that was like their plan the whole time. Like there's like we got
No,
to
they
get
didn't.
into
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
We
yeah.
Yeah,
For
gotta
sure.
no, 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 no,
For
no,
sure.
no.
gotta
All right,
actually
well,
start the
let me
conversation.
give you okay, so I'm gonna give a synopsis for this movie. We've already kind of talked about it, but a punk rock band is forced to fight for survival after witnessing a murder at a neo-Nazi skinhead bar. That's all you need. Hour and 20 some odd minutes.
135.
Yeah, absolutely right underneath that. Like it's just a solid in, you're out, you're done. Trigger warnings are gonna include graphic violence, gore, racism, obviously, needle drugs, and joints bending the wrong way. That one is a fucking rough one.
Violence from and to animals.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, violence and two from animals. Yeah.
And personally like vilification of pit bulls.
Yeah, but hear me out, Chad. If it's a
Yeah, I
Nazi
was gonna.
pit bull,
That's literally what I was gonna say.
Yeah, but like that's
I'm
not
kidding. I
it's
know.
not
I
even a
know.
Nazi dog. Like
Yeah,
But
yeah,
what
yeah.
if it
Yeah,
is?
yeah.
It speaks German, Chad.
It speaks German.
No, I just mean like
I say nine, sir.
traditionally that's not like a Nazi dog, you know what I
Yes,
mean?
I know. I know.
Yeah, yeah, but he walks the walk, you know.
It would be equally weird if it was a Frenchie, you
Yeah.
know? Like it's just not a Nazi dog, you know?
That's hilarious. Well, yeah. So if that all, I implore people to go watch this. If you're listening to this, chances are you probably have seen this. It's a very big cult following at this point, as exampled in that theater that I went to, because it was packed. It was wall to wall. It was packed, and a lot of old fans and a lot of new fans that were there, and everybody fell in love with that movie all over again.
I feel like it's beyond cult. Like
It's very like beloved.
it's
What do you
well
mean?
it's well received. I want
Like
to
its audience size. Like
Oh
Cult
yeah,
is like
I just
loved,
mean
but it's
also
small.
because initially when it dropped, the budget is 5 million and they only grossed like
Yeah.
3 million worldwide, so they did
Yeah.
not see their money back on this movie.
No.
So
But
it
a
was
decade later now,
absolutely-
this movie captivated like a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Attention.
It's a cultural pinpoint at this point.
They got
Yeah.
my
That's why,
four
like,
fucking dollars.
That's
They got my 5 because I
That's
did
what I
high
was
def,
saying.
baby.
I have bought this movie multiple times. I've lent it out to people and just never gave it back. I had a green room shirt that my ex stole from me. Oh, that fucking breaks my heart, dude. All right,
But
I
much
love
like this
fucking movie.
turnbuckle here,
I love-
we're about to throw the shit out of each other verbally.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's fucking
All
jump
right.
into our underoos and fight
So,
each other.
Please go watch this movie. It means the entire world to me, as I'll get into right now. But we are going to start this movie off. Let's do it, boys. All right. So the film opens with our main characters, the Ain't Rights, asleep in their van on the side of the road in a cornfield with the headlights and radio on. Lead singer of the band, Tiger, fell asleep at the wheel while driving. Pat, the guitarist, wakes up everyone and they try to think of a plan. They take a bike out of the back seat, and two of them.
No, you're gonna say they take a bite out of crime. I swear.
They take a bike out of the back seat, and two of them, Pat and the bassist Sam, head to a nearby bowling alley to siphon gas from a car in the parking lot. Before too long, they're back on the road and eventually meet up with Tad, a college student who works for a local radio station. He hands them the keys to his apartment and tells them where to park so their equipment is safe. He says that he works nights, but he'll catch up with them at breakfast.
All right, real quick from the jump. This was my initial thoughts. I'm kind of on Chad's side the first couple minutes of this movie. I have some of his thoughts, and like right from the get-go, we get like a shot of it like off the cornfield, like perfectly like cut through, like someone buzzed their hair into a reverse mohawk. And then like they're just like, oh man, you fell asleep. And then the guy wakes up, he's like, oh, who fell asleep? Oh, I did. And it's like they're clearly like, and they're like, we got to get gas, man. Let's go steal. Like it's very like, wow, these guys are real badass. And it feels like it comes across like it was either written, like I said earlier, this part in particular, like while watching it, by like either like a 13-year-old Viva La Bam enjoyer or like a 43-year-old like dude in a suit trying to relate to the youth that love punk. It's and but it does at the same time kind of set up these characters in your defense as like they're not just like fucking kids that go from show to show. Like they're not like necessarily just these suburban kids that play punk. Like they'll huff it out, they'll grind it out, they'll steal gas. Like they're in the shit. They're not just like trust fund babies that want to slum it up in the punk scene. And it gives the characters grit, but also it is very like cheesy in a way almost. Because they're like, oh, we're so cool, but they're also like 20 years old, probably.
That's exactly
so
what
it's
I was
like
say,
that's how I was. Because when I think about being 19, 20 and being like, yo, I'm so punk, man, and I'm like, bro, fuck, I'd break my nose if I met me then.
That's literally what it is at this point, because it does feel like they're just dumb kids on the road who just are doing this shit. Like again, as I've always talked about the punk rock mentality, like. It doesn't matter if you have fancy toys, like use what you have at your disposal and just fucking go for it.
Do it yourself.
You know, just fucking do it. And like, that's what they're doing in this whole beginning section of the movie. I will say there are two sections of this movie that happen not even 15, like maybe 10 minutes in this movie that I'm going to like linger on that are like I was watching and fucking like tearing up. Like it means, it genuinely is like very impactful imagery for me. But yeah, let's you were gonna say, Chad?
Oh, I was just gonna say kind of what I mean about like the cartoonish portrayal of like going on tour of being like, yeah, and then we'll have enough room that we'll also bring a bike, and then we'll just do like an 11-mile trip both ways and
with all of
spend
the
4 hours getting
equipment.
2 gallons of gas. And then once we get like 40 miles down the road, because we're in a fucking Ford Econoline, then the van will break down again. But then we'll get out on the bike, and then we'll go and we'll siphon some more gas, and that'll take 2 more hours. Then we'll get 40 more miles down the road. And it's just like, how the fuck are you like gonna keep a schedule doing that? Also,
hey, live fast, die young, baby.
The idea of having that time, like, or having that space, having that time, like, it's just, I don't know. It's like it's a thing that like sounds cool, but it's just like so not how it could possibly work.
And I did like that Hardlore podcast that you talked about, that interview with the director, because he talks about like even in this opening scene here, because initially upon watching it, I had that same thought that you had, but allegedly, according to the director, he was as he puts it, he was a yeller in a punk band in like 95, like the mid 90s. And some of these characters, like the Mohawk guy that we meet in a minute that we set up, is based off a real guy that was in the audience of the interview, as well as a couple other characters in the band.
They were talking about Tad actually being the guy who plays Tad. He was there that night.
Oh,
that's
Tad,
that's what they were talking about.
But he did say that like even a lot of the band members were based off of
they're based off
he knew in the band. Yeah. And then as well as these stories, like the cornfield was allegedly a real thing. Siphoning gas, he said allegedly for legal reasons. It may or may not have happened quite a few times.
I understand even, like in an emergency situation. But there's like lines of dialogue where they just straight up say like, this is how they're going to get home.
Yeah,
they're from DC like, and they're in Oregon. I think what you're saying, like, we'll just siphon gas all the way to DC.
Yeah,
like, it will take you a year.
The way that's like, said, I want to say it read to me as them being like, we've done this before, we can do it again. It's fine. Like we'll actually figure it out. It's not a problem. This isn't an obstacle for us. This isn't gonna like, be a way that we won't get back from.
That's still, I mean, like I said, like the amount of time it's going to take to do that alone, and you're moving inches at a time.
Suspend that disbelief, baby.
I can't in a movie that's explicitly set in the world we live in.
See, and like, that's where it comes in. Maybe.
Like there's no there's no disbelief to suspend because it's the real world. So unlike our conversation on the substance, where it's very clearly not the real world, who gives a shit? It's a play on a stage. There's no reason to like think about why she's able to do construction. Like this is just like these are real people. This is realistic. Everyone talks about how realistic this movie is.
I think what it is that I'll just say it right now then I guess. The way that these characters are played, the way that they act, the way that they talk, that they speak, their mannerisms, it felt like people that I know. It felt like friends that I grew up with. It felt like I was watching something that I like. It didn't expect to hold it in my hand throughout the whole thing. It didn't have to like tell me this is what they mean when they refer to this, or this is how they mean when they refer to that. So like they were almost talking in a language that I understood inherently, being a part of that culture for my entire life, pretty much at this point. But like that's what I mean is that when people talk about this movie feeling real, I think that's what they're talking about is that they know it's made by people who understand the lingo, understand the way of life of these people, even though these circumstances that they're put into are heightened, which is why I call this a heightened reality movie because it doesn't, yeah, obviously the shit isn't going to happen because, like you said, skins you're not going to go to a skinhead bar. You're not going to like people like us, like you and me, like Chad was saying, we have brains. We understand that. But in this reality, I am willing to put that aside, being like, okay, yeah, you need the money. You need to like, live off of your art for sure. And I know the struggle of that. No one makes money off of their art. And that's how that's been. You know what I mean? That's understandable.
But they're so explicitly like we don't have an online presence. We don't care about this. We don't care about that. But at the same time, we're putting our whole livelihood into going on tour and spreading our name. And also, we're willing to do anything for
We're gonna
money,
get to
apparently.
that. Yeah, we'll get to that
It's,
conversation. That's
yeah.
the part that I want to linger on too. So
last thing before we
Yeah.
jump into that scene is just the opening scene kind of that sets the tone after they siphon the gas when they're driving and we get that aerial view of all the trees. We get this like ambient texture tone and we see like one of the leads in the band that comes to be a lead character, kind of like a shot on his face, and then it pans back into like this aerial shot of the bus going through the mountains of like Oregon or wherever they are. And it's like this nice, like transcendent, like ambience music playing. And I thought it was funny that the opening driving scene in this movie where you see the scenic route, it's almost like reverse funny games because you get this atmospheric ambient music shadowing a movie about punk life, and it contrasts to like the opening about a movie about a bourgeoisie family and their lake house opening up with grindcore.
Yeah,
it's nothing really about the movie. I just thought it was really
right.
fun.
There's definitely like a swap there.
It threw me off kind of because I'm like, this is not the vibe, man. Like, play some fucking Minor Threat like on his t-shirt, but then
music,
it worked.
Yeah, that music will come back around into another piece.
Yeah,
like,
and
it comes
like
around in the couple of parts in the movie.
It contrasts really well, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah. All right. So the band has a look around the place while they settle in. Tiger is impressed with his collection of records and remarks, "He's true." We see a Dillinger Escape Plan banner on the hanger hanging on
I
the
did
wall.
like that. I did like that.
Framed pictures of cats on his shelf. I like that.
I didn't notice that, but I like it.
Yeah, it's all pictures of his cat. It's so fucking sweet. And punk rock art plastered all over the place. Again, I've been in that room. I am now creating that room myself as an adult. Like it is.
That's for sure. My friend Joel's house in Portland.
Again, you know these people. You have met these types of people.
And
I have, but these are caricatures of them.
Yeah, and that's again movie magic.
The set design is what I was talking. The set design, though, this is one of the main points that I was talking about earlier, where it's like there's a movie that stands out to me, like 2017 Logan, like the Wolverine movie. There's like one shot that makes no sense because in the set design, when they're in that farm family in their house towards the end, and the little girl is talking to the son, and in that son's room where it's all like action figures and technology, he has a despised Icon poster chilling on the wall.
What the fuck?
And he's like a 12-year-old farm kid, and it just doesn't mesh with like what they set up as his personality. And that's kind of like what I mean, like when it was a cool nod to throw in there from like the set designer, but like this movie, like it feels so authentic, and like the people that threw this together, it didn't feel like let's just print out a bunch of like punk images that are slapped on from Google. Like they got like so many
logos in there that I haven't seen since I was a fucking kid.
Dude. Yeah,
I haven't and it was funny because bands in forever. That's fucking crazy.
When you're looking at this and taking it in, they're judging his record collection, and they're like, "You think he's just like a fashion punk, or do you think he's real?" And then he's looking at the records, he's like, "Nah, he's true to it." And I'm like, "Yeah, this movie really is like true to it aesthetically."
Yep.
When they were like, just because he puts cum in his hair every morning,
he wakes up at 4 a.m. to put jizz in his hair.
Stealing his beer, as they say that.
Yeah. So Sam finds a 6-pack of beer in the fridge, and Tiger pulls out a Fear record to spin while they drink. And I love that cut where it just starts the needle drop. There's a beautiful needle cut of the needle hitting the record, and as the song starts, we jump to the next morning as beer cans are strewn around. Pat wakes up and answers the door. Tad sees him and asks first to fall asleep. We then see Pat wiping his face, trying to clean off a bunch of Sharpie drawings.
All the dicks.
So many cocks.
All the cocks coming on each other on his face.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. And it's like stupid shit like that I was like, who didn't fucking get that on tour? You know what I mean? Like
that's a completely unclippable part, chat. Don't clip that, chat. That was a sentence that is not... They're not gonna like us for that one, chat.
Damn it. Oh man. So we come. This is gonna be one of the points that I want to like stop on for a second. This is the scene that still gets me every single time when I watched it in the theater and Anton delivered that line. There's just tears running down my face. It was. It's a lot because I'm gonna get to the actual description of the scene, but like this being released the same year that we lost Anton was a huge thing. So if people don't know, the lead in this film, the guy who plays Pat, is Anton Yelchin, and it's probably unlikely that you don't know him because you probably saw the Star Wars remakes or Star Trek remakes, and he was playing Chekhov, was he? Or
I think he was Chekhov.
Yeah, he's Chekhov, right? So he was already an established star at the point that he made this film, and this was one that he sought out himself. That's what Jeremy was talking about. That he wanted so badly to play this role because he believed in the story that was being told, and he believed in the actions of the characters that they were trying to get through. So for this being the movie that he sort of went out, I think they released one more after he was killed.
Is that how he died?
It was a freak accident. The family actually ended up suing Jeep, the Jeep company after it happened, but he got crushed in his driveway in between the wall while he was trying to open up his gate for his house. It was literally just one of the most surreal fucking freak accidents that you could probably ever imagine. And they sued the family, and they sued the company after that because they were there was a recall on a bunch of Jeeps having that issue where the gear or something like that, the actual gear to switch into park and drive, all that stuff was shitty or something like that, but I forgot exactly. I didn't look into all of the details, but they did recall the car after that.
He did live this shit too, and that's why he was a big proponent. He was seeking this out. He lived he was in a punk band. They talked about he was one of the only former musically trained people on set. Like he searched
he was one of
for
the
this
only
type
ones
of
who
role.
actually played in a band before playing.
Yeah, and the director straight up said like he wasn't necessarily intimidated to have these big stars on, but he was so excited to have this big star on that's searching it out because he's been in the shit just like the director has. So he has like a love for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So and again that earnesty comes through. I love the way that he was able to like convey these things. And in particular, this scene, and I'll get to it finally, but in particular, this scene showed so much of his acting abilities by he plays it very subtly. He has a very like calm demeanor while he's doing it, but there's like a slight panic while they're asking one of the questions, the main question, the desert island question. While they were asking that, if you watch his performance, you could see him. He's like slightly panicking, like trying to figure out, like he's like listening to someone talking. He's trying to figure out what he wants to say, and I don't know. There's just something so endearing to that type of like not
Little pussy
naivete,
boy.
but
It read.
I want to say that, yeah.
Well, yeah, it read kind of to me. That boy ain't right, if you will.
Yeah.
No,
Exactly.
but it read to me when he was panicking like that because they're setting up this interview, and he has this whole little speech about how he's like, it's not that we hate.
I'm gonna get into.
Well, yeah, okay, get into that, and then I'll throw it in there.
Okay. So he starts off the interview like, you guys, it's hard to find you guys on social media, like why don't you guys have any social media presence? And they're like Reese, who's the drummer, says because booking more shows and selling more records would suck. And I thought that was hilarious. It's like such a funny answer to give, and it's one that I absolutely have heard from actual bands being interviewed at like their age.
It sounds to me like the real implication there is that some of them want this to be serious and some of them are not taking it seriously enough. It sounds like that's a fight.
Yeah,
it sounds like that's an internal fight that's why he's saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Is he's just like, yeah, because making some actual money and not having to like scrounge on the road would be terrible, wouldn't it, guys?
It seems very pointed for sure, as he's saying. And recent, Joe, I forget his name. Joe Cole, I want to say, is the guy who plays Reese. Yeah, he's also,
is that J. Cole?
Phenomenal.
Is that what the J stands for?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But Pat says, when you take it all virtual, you lose the texture. He's like, what do you mean? He says, you got to be there. The music is for effect. It's time and aggression. And Joe Reese pulls in. He's like, technical wizardry. And he says, it's shared live, and then it's over. That energy can't last. And that, like, is the most profound shit I've ever fucking heard in a movie in my life.
But they're literally talking about recording a 7-inch in the same scene.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's to me that feels like the most like 20-year-old thing to say.
Yeah.
Of just like, sure. I understand, but I don't agree with it.
Sure, but I mean, I think also if you pull back the lens of like maybe he's not just talking about that 7-inch. I don't think he's just talking about making the music. I think he's just talking about in general. I turn to music to feel something. I turn to shows. I go to live concerts to feel something. The same way that I look at movies. I want to go and I want to feel something with movies. When I heard him say that energy line is exact. I've felt that at shows. I have felt that, and only at fucking shows. And it's like that was a beautiful, poignant statement.
But have you then been like, man, I sure hope I can never find that band again?
Well, like here's the thing.
What I mean, because it's happened to me before.
But did you want to never find that band again? Because that's kind of their argument. I know I'm being a little pedantic, but I'm just like
both of you, like what both of you are saying is correct, and I feel like the kind of thing that they're setting in the tone of this band is like So the female member of the band, I can't remember her name, Sam.
Sam.
Yeah, she throws out that like, oh yeah, we'd love to record a 7-inch soon. We have a couple songs, and then the other guy goes, yeah, if we ever get the money. And there's kind of like this back and forth. I think what he meant by when he said you lose the texture of having a social media presence isn't posting content, posting music, but it's more so not letting people know that you're there. But like there is a real issue now, modern day, it's aged kind of well, where more musicians I see online are complaining more than they're making music, and it's a fair complaint that you have. There's that whole thing where it's like you have to be an actor, you have to be an editor, you have to be a manager. A lot of these record labels won't even let them release a song until they have like 10 million views on like 20 TikToks that go viral of the same clip. And by the time you hear the song, you're sick of it.
Yep.
Like there's so many songs that I love now, but I'm sick of it by the time it comes out because I keep hearing the same clips. And like musicians don't like that. They're very open about it. A lot of them I see. And I think that's what he means, where he's like posting that live music, posting those live videos constantly. It just, you lose that like feeling, because I know I went to Tie Down last June in Detroit, and like there was that reunion show, that first reunion show for Have Heart, and I had never seen them live, but that energy in that crowd, I looked at Alyssa and I literally had a moment where she was already looking at me, because I acknowledged in that moment, I'm like, I'm seeing something that I need to like take in right now, and like acknowledge that I need to take it in, because like my hair was standing up everywhere, even my pubes and my ass hair were needle point straight, because there was so much energy, people just jumping on top of people that are in the air jumping, like just chaos, but so much community and love in there. And I think that's what he meant, where he's not like, fuck social media, man, we're too cool, but like him in particular was like, you lose that feeling if you're constantly following us in this parasocial relationship online, just watching clips of us play, you know, songs and the same 30-second snippets.
I couldn't put it better myself.
I mean, it's funny because this is like far from like one of my bigger gripes, and we've lingered on it for so long. But
I told you I wanted
you guys, and I think this is going to be a recurring thing that's going to keep frustrating me, is that they're talking about a very specific thing and I'm commenting on that very specific thing. So they're like, why don't you promote your shows better? Why don't you book your tours better? Why don't you have a social media presence? Well, we don't want any of those things. And then your guys' retorts are just like, well, what if we talked about it like a different aspect of it, like posting clips? Because, and I don't think that's at all the conversation they're having, or that commenting on it. And I'm just saying there's aspects of punk rock that I think we can all agree are dumb and edgy and unnecessary. And I think that's what this is. And the band themselves is even like fighting about it.
And 100%.
So that's my whole comment.
I think it's ego, and I think it's a lack of like stability, because when you're 19, 20 and you're traveling in a punk band, you know, you don't have a family, you don't have this, you don't have that. And I think it's relatable in the way that I've seen bands over like years now grow from that to like they're in their mid 30s now. Like bands I followed since high school, and now they're 35, they have a kid, they have like a wife, and they have a house with a mortgage. And like they've been open in interviews where they're like, yeah, you know, it's live fast, die young until you get married and have a kid. And now I need to, you know, make a little Octane rock every now and then to pay the bills. I liked that it was dumb, but it was more dumb in a way that it's not a bad character written, but just the naivety. And it felt very relatable in a lot of the local shows that I've went to, of just that like ego-filled naivety that you have when you're like, I'm a fucking rock star.
That's what I'm saying.
But I made $6.
That's all I was commenting on as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like I understand that we might be reading a little too much into it. But like I said, that is the effect that this movie has had on me, because I've lived this, you know, like lifestyle for so long, the punk rock lifestyle. And I've always been someone who's about like, this whole podcast, that's the reason why I started this. Like, I don't know nothing. I have my laptop and I have shit.
Like, obviously, I love live shows, and that's why I do what I do as well.
Yeah,
that's like the whole purpose. That's what I'm good at. I'm not good at the internet stuff. I wish I was better at the internet stuff. So as somebody who's done so much touring and genuinely pretty much has nothing to show for it, the reason for that is that I'm not good at the social media stuff. So to show a movie and be like, they're so good at touring, they don't need to do that stuff, I'm just like, my life,
but I
my
don't
life
think they
experience
are though.
directly contradicts that, my friends.
Yeah,
you
no, but
know?
that's the thing. I don't think they are, and that's the thing. He's like, people love you, but I think it is also one of those things where I'm like, when I talk to my friends in the scene, back then about certain bands, we knew that they were loved because we were in the scene and we knew about them and we talked about them, we learned about them and everything. But fuck if anybody else had heard their name, at all. And they're
Yeah.
like 4 records deep. They've been around playing shows for fucking a decade. You know what I mean? Like, and it is one of those things where it's like, I think punk rock in particular feels like it's this such a niche genre when you start getting into the like very, very underground aspects of it. And where it's like, yeah, you have bands like this that only fucking put out a 7-inch in the 90s and then they're like never heard from again. You know what I mean? But like they'll do a reunion show out of nowhere and they'll pack out an entire fucking venue. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things. Like it is that like the Screamers is a good one. I'll bring up LA's like probably most famous synth punk band that never put out an album. Never did shit.
I feel like because we're gonna argue so much,
Mhm.
a lot of my comments I'm just trying to say this is being overblown. All I was saying is that it's a stupid, naive thing to say, and that
Oh
they're
yeah, yeah,
stupid and
yeah.
naive. Like we're having like a big back and forth, and I just keep trying to say
But
like,
but
no,
yeah.
it was just a stupid,
No, yeah,
naive
I'm
yeah.
so
thing
sweaty
to
right now.
say.
Mom and dad are fighting. Oh
And
my
that's
God.
but that's the thing. I do understand. I understand that, but I also
I'm like,
do
I don't
wanna-
even have a point. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
even
yeah.
argue anything
But
because I don't
do.
have
That's
a
the
point.
thing. I
It's
do. I have
it's
seen this movie.
it's just that this particular thing was a stupid thing for them to say, but they're meant to look stupid, so it was
Mhm.
effective. But it is a stupid thing to say. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think I think that's what I'm saying.
I
Like
feel like we just have to cut the last 10 minutes because
no,
this has just been
no.
totally
No. I
pointless.
really no, because that's the thing. I do all of this really does tie into the movie itself, and this is why I wanted to do this movie on this podcast for so long, is because it is such a very special movie to me in the way that there's this other thing that we can pull from it outside of just the actions that are just going on in front of us. There's like another commentary that could be made about the culture, about all of that that's going on in this movie. Because
I'm just strictly saying though that like if the line if having your character go, we don't believe in social media because spreading our name isn't cool
yeah.
while doing a radio interview specifically to do that. If you didn't write
College
that
radio, by the way.
I didn't think of
if you
that. That's
didn't write
actually
that with
fair.
the self-awareness that your
Yeah.
characters are stupid, you yourself are fucking stupid.
No, I didn't think about the fact that
Like
they're literally promoting their own band on a college radio
like
station.
like they're,
Yeah.
and then they're like, so what link should we promote? None. I don't
Yeah.
know. Fuck it. Which any radio station would go, then we're not going to do this.
Yeah.
Like this
But
is
not the punk rock kid who does it on his fucking, on his off time.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just it is one of those things. That's what I'm saying. I love the aspects about this that were just again that whole beginning segment of just looking around his apartment. That was a whole part of it. I was like, dude, I've been in that room. Like I told like that's where my homie showed me a bunch of music like this in that exact setting, and it was like, and that's what I'm saying. It felt that's what it is for me. That's why it's a comfort movie for me, because it's things, it's iconography, it's images that I understand, that I identify with so strongly, and that I like had such a huge impact on my life and my upbringing, and like the just in my day-to-day life and how I think and feel and act. So that's why that is why you will have to fucking bear with me as I gush about this movie, because it genuinely is. I can't stress it enough. It's a comfort watch at this point.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, but
I
also
appreciate it. No,
not everything I'm going to say has like a deeper point. I was just
100%. I get it. That's what I'm saying. I
You,
absolutely get it.
you know the meme of
I
like
think
the
you have to
guy
cut
going
like 10 minutes.
you know the meme of the guy going like this to the girl and it's like a wall of text.
I'm not reading all that.
I feel like I'm right in between that meme.
There's nothing sweeter in life than hitting someone with I'm not reading all that.
I'm not reading.
I ain't reading all that.
It's oh god.
Or just
So
sending them an
orgasmic.
invite to play pool.
All
That's
right.
funny.
Getting back to it.
Mafia Wars.
Oh my God, that was
I
a
haven't heard
recess
that
of my
fucking-
mind.
Straight up, I haven't heard that name
Holy
in forever.
shit. I'm gonna
Jesus
go play
Christ.
Mafia Wars after this. It's holy shit.
Check if the server's still alive.
Do something better with your time, please.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I was
Anything.
into that. That was the only fucking shit app that sucked me in. It was so ass.
Oh,
Carry
man.
on. We're 8
Anyway.
minutes into this movie.
Tad then asks each of them their desert island bands. Tiger answers Misfits. No, the Damned. Ah, fuck it, Misfits. Sam says Poison Idea. Reese says Cro-Mags. They then start rattling off different bands while Pat sits there and looks nervous as he's scrambling for an answer. Sam asks Tad if they should plug the show where they were in town to play in the first place, and he cuts the recording. He tells them the show fell through due to losing his permit, but that he has a backup gig for them if they're willing. And we cut to a gig that pretty much anyone who's ever played music fucking has played a variant of in their career.
This is Monday and Tuesday on tour.
This
feels like specifically this is not going to hit for either of you, but
some
this feels
Sundays,
like
but this is
feels
Monday
like
and Tuesday.
Yep.
New Dodge Lounge and the Painted Lady in Hamtramck. Just that feels like this. Any band there, just
All right,
like
the three people that got that reference.
yeah, or like
that
the
was for
Ritz,
you.
the Ritz slash AKA Hot Rocks, in like Warren. Like whenever there's like the old guys that are there every day drinking, just sipping, and then there's just a deathcore band on like a shitty wooden stage.
Yep, that's literally what it is. So
Taco Tuesday.
Yep. We cut to a Mexican restaurant where the band is set up in the corner while a few people record them on their phones. After the gig, Ted apologetically tells them that he gave them his cut. But before he can finish, Reese pins him to the wall in anger. And what was there? The 650 each way?
688 if you round it up.
If you round it up. And then just fucking Reese pins him. That shit was so funny. So
all I can think is, God, that dude, like that Reese is just intolerable. This isn't the only thing, but he just sucks. He's just like so abrasive, and then
he's the jock of the band. Like,
a door deal show didn't go well, and he's like putting his hands on the promoter.
For sure.
No, that sucks, but like, what can you do, man? Like, there's some shows where you make nothing.
For sure. He definitely is the meathead of the group.
Yeah, he's the varsity jacket.
He definitely like plays a drummer really well. I'll say that. I know that's not shade to all my drummer homies, but I'm just saying there's a type, there's
me bang hard.
They're working shit out behind that kit for sure. So the band decides to cut their losses and head back home, but before they leave, Ted tells them that he can call his cousin and set up a proper gig for them in Portland. We cut to them sitting in the van waiting for Tad. He walks out and tells them that it's all set up. Matinee show at 1, they're on at 3, and it pays $3.50. He warns them, just so you know, it's mostly boots and braces down there. They don't seem fazed by this. Pat asks, what, DMS, Sharp? Tad says, right wing, technically ultra left, but not affiliated. That one got the biggest fucking laugh in the theater, dude. That was the funniest fucking shit.
It's real.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is and it isn't.
Yeah, for sure. But it was just like, yeah, absolutely. But it was the Go ahead.
No, you're good.
No, I was gonna say it was just the absurdity of that like placement in that line. It was just so funny.
No, so I have a question about this scene where like he hoists him up and is trying to steal his lunch money, essentially, like throwing the promoter against the wall. And this guy is affiliated with the guys we're about to meet at this venue. He clearly knows where they're going. He's upfront and open with them. But do you think, and I'm reading into this, but like second time watching it, like a decade later, do you think he threw them under the bus, like as a way of saying "fuck you," or do you think he was trying to be genuinely nice?
I'm gonna hit you with something in a while that I don't think you had realized.
But he just essentially seemed very caring, but at the same time, he didn't throw this better offer out there until they like started fucking with him.
There's some narrative layers to it. Because he has them take him somewhere, and then he like goes inside and then comes out, and then he's like, yeah, I figured it out. This is the deal.
That was back at his place. They
This
just
is
took
where
him
you're
back to his
going.
place. They just took him
Oh,
back to his place.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And then because
I also couldn't tell if Reese stole because he mentions like the
no,
rice and beans. I couldn't tell if he stole that from him
no,
or
they
if they
probably
just
gave
gave
it.
that to him.
Yeah,
That's
like they
what
got
they
lunch.
got lunch
Yeah.
from for the
Yeah.
for
You
sure,
would
yeah.
definitely at least get paid for
Yeah,
or fed for something like
fed.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so I couldn't tell because he picks it up after he chokes him, but I couldn't remember if he was
no, yeah.
holding it before.
It's because right here I put he says that he would go with them, but he needs to clean up his place to host his cousin and his girlfriend. So
Mm-hmm.
he literally says he's like, I gotta
Yeah,
vacuum and
yeah.
shit.
So put a pin in that
Yeah,
because he's
literally,
like
that's a huge part of this.
because he's like
Huge
this
part.
guy is gonna be taking care of you at this show, but
Yep.
then he's gonna come here afterwards, and you're just gonna go fuck off and do your whatever you're doing next.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which is kind of strange. Like he's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
be
for
out there
sure.
for the show, and then he's gonna go elsewhere instead of going
We
home.
do see him kind of plotting this as
it gets
yeah,
explained, but
yeah, yeah.
but it should like have you be like,
For
Yeah,
sure.
I
Yeah, yeah,
perked.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wrote something down later about that, but yeah, I noticed because how are you gonna meet them? How are you gonna meet his cousin there if he's
Yeah.
coming over?
If
Like
he's
that
gonna
whole
come in.
thing did
For
like
sure, for sure. It was
yeah.
just this little like dog head turn type shit. So while the last 10 minutes of the film have been dedicated to showing how tough the reality of touring can be, these next few minutes emphasize the bliss that can come along with being on the road with a group of friends. They laugh, they drink, they fart together. That was my favorite
It was a
part.
good fart.
It's like, hey, Pat, there's something I've never told you or anyone before for that matter. And he's like, what? He's just and then you hear Sam, which you know that little part I want to say it was improv too, because you hear Sam go, wait, was that real? What the fuck? Oh man, that was so funny. But yeah, okay. So and then this like the scene where they're on the river like side and like just fucking having a fire pit right there while the oil rig is in the background and the lights like bouncing off of that. That was fucking dude, that cinematography, no right going that hard.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It felt a lot like a lot of the scenes in like not Love Lies Bleeding. Timothy Chalamet, Luca movie
Oh
from
yeah, yeah,
last
bones
year.
and all.
Bones and all,
Yeah,
baby.
yeah,
There
yeah,
it
bones
is.
and all.
And
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
it feels like they feel very like making drifters like an elegant drifter type of scene. Like just the way they camp out in these random states throughout the place, like and they make it look so pretty, like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
gritty
yeah.
lifestyle
That's
done so
exactly. And then
shiny.
that music comes back that you were talking about, that like ethereal type of like
Yeah.
ambient music comes in and you're
Yeah.
really focusing. I love the little shot of them just opening up the little window on the
Yeah.
van thing. All of that was just it was done with care. You know what I mean? The filming of this movie was done with care, and I really appreciated all of that. Um, yeah, but like I said, it's like the bliss because it's like I haven't been on tour personally, but I have been on like plenty of long trips with my friends who were playing shows in like a city that was way the fuck out there, you know, and like and chilling with them in the van and stuff like that. So like I have literally experienced this part right here. So it was
Yeah.
like this feels like that love letter to the culture that I was talking about. You know, like this part in particular, and I really really appreciated this scene. Um, so when they arrive at the venue, they meet Tad's cousin Daniel before unloading. And when he tells them they look hammered, Tiger says, "One night at Tad's will do that to you. And if your girl's going to be crashing," but before he's able to finish his sentence, Daniel grabs him by the throat and tells him not to mention anything about his cousin and his girl.
Yeah.
This literally I like had to run back like twice because I was like, what the fuck
Same.
did I miss? I
Yeah.
was like, what is happening here?
Yeah. Yeah. It's literally that line. He says, if your girl's going to be crashing, and then that's what prompts him. He's like, hey,
Yeah.
shut the fuck
Then
up
he
about
said,
me and
don't
him
say
and her.
anything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
But
And
so
at
it's
the
just like,
this is
Yeah.
our first real point of tension. This is 12 minutes into the movie. I
Yeah,
wrote that
yeah,
down
yeah,
because I was like, this is such a breakneck fucking pace movie.
It's
And it's
so
funny because
fast,
like the
dude.
average punk song is like a minute and a half and it's so
This is
snappy
the
and it's so
punk
quick.
song of movies.
Yeah, it's like it's so quick. Like we're
Yeah.
12 minutes in, and I think it's like the 15 or 16 minute marker. In 4 minutes, we're getting our first insight of like violence.
Yeah, for sure. This like underlying tension the whole time, and then there's
Yeah.
like the inciting incident that's gonna happen, and
Yeah.
then it's just like, oh shit, like then the shit gets real. So a man who we will come to know as Gabe walks over to the van and directs them towards the load-in door. As they walk in, they notice the marquee has their name misspelled as the Aren't Rights. That's and I was like, how many times has that fucking happened?
Not any worse than their name already.
Yeah.
That's
But I mean,
like,
it's a pretty bad
how many
name.
times has people like PsydeShow? Who the fuck spells that with a P in front of it? You know what I mean? I get it. Like
we got Double Dragon spelled wrong when we spelled it right. So
that's why Panic at the Disco took the exclamation point out finally. Like,
oh, is
7
that
years
really
into
why?
No, probably not. I'm just lying. But like,
what the fuck?
it definitely makes sense. Like, just for the algorithm, no one
You
probably
could have
like
just
thinks
said
to
that,
do
and I'd
that.
believe it. I would have just believed it.
Yeah, no, I'm just assuming.
So they're led to the titular green room, and they're told they're going on in 20 minutes. As they're grabbing some beers out of the fridge, Pat takes a look around the room and says, "Hey, y'all, I got a dumb idea." And around the room, we see like a Confederate flag. We see some SS markings. We see all of the racist asshole accoutrement going on. And I think on the wall is literally written KKK on the
Yeah,
fucking
there's
door.
like stickers that just say white power.
Yeah. So we cut to the band finally on stage as they're ready to perform. And Pat wordly turns to Sam and says, or not. But she tells him, you back out now. I tell him you're Jewish. They proceed to jump right into a cover of Nazi Punk's Fuck Off by the Dead Kennedys to a crowd of skinheads who begin hurling beer bottles and spitting at them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So while this is happening, Pat notices Daniel hand a wad of cash over to a woman who we will come to know as Emily, just as her friend Amber asks for a light. Do you want to go ahead?
I was gonna say, but it's all okay because once they play a different song, the crowd is fine with them and dances because that's how Nazis are in real life.
We're about to combat you. We're about to combat you with this one. Go ahead, hit him, Austin.
I do agree with you.
This is the second part that I want to linger on. So go ahead.
And this is the part that I agree with both of you because I knew where both of you were going to come at with each other, and I agree with both of you because watching it's silly as fuck. If you go to a Nazi bar and you start singing Nazi Punk Fuck Off to like genuine red laced fucking boots,
prepare to fucking
they're gonna stab you in the neck. Literally. Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah, like, are you kidding me? Like you go to the Nazi bar knowingly, which to me makes you a fucking bad person, and they deserve everything that happens to them. Like for real. Jesus. If they said, "Hey, we'll pay you $1,000 to play at the Nazi bar," I'd say, "Hey, go fucking die." You know, like.
But we see in a later scene, there's this conversation, and like this for me, I don't know what Joey's going to necessarily say, but this for me just harkens back. It's not necessarily that I'm going to defend like, oh, it makes sense that they wouldn't beat their ass, but like they're clearly angry. They're throwing beer bottles. They're throwing shit at them, telling them to fuck off. Would they just stab them 50 times? Yes. But at the same time, they wouldn't do it in that moment because what we see in this movie and what it is when you're like legit in that shit, there is like this sense of just like honor and like upholding like a sense of like Gus Fring type of like.
It's called organized crime.
Yeah, I couldn't think of the very common word.
You heard it here first. Austin said that Nazis are dignified.
No,
and honorable.
Honor in the brotherhood. Like that's how they think of it. Like they have to be like, all right, there's a tier list to this. They literally have rainbow belts on their shoelaces like they're in karate class. They're goofy fucking head asses. Like, fuck off. But the point is, I don't know. Like I can see that they wouldn't just storm the place. They clearly showed that they're pissed off, but at the same time, good music's good music. And like, there's a lot of local artists that are. Hold on. Wait. Because I know where you're gonna hit me. Because I'm not saying that I throw on some Nazi black metal, you know, just to vibe to it. There's music that I won't touch, but I know there's a lot of shitheads locally that make some fire fucking tracks. And I'm not gonna throw names out there, but I don't like them. But then they release something, and I'm like, God, why does this have to be so good? And I'm not saying that they respect them necessarily, but this scene specifically for me, just that aside ties into that whole pretentious rant about social media earlier with like the energy and the vibe, because again that ambience kicks in after the cover and they play their real music. I think it was called Coronary.
Yep.
And they start that song and you don't even hear the song, and it cuts to that same ambience again that you see at the fireplace, you see in the car with them. And like those are just like kind of the moments, that energy, that raw power, that it just showcases like the energy that is live music. Absolutely. And the experience of it all.
It's an energy that the filmmakers say punk rock can't capture this energy. So what we need to do is put classical music over it.
No, but I can call you out. There's a real example of this. I feel bad because I don't have like the guy's name on hand, his Instagram handle, but I personally DM this guy privately, and I was like, "Thank you." I messaged him, and I was like, "Genuinely, thank you for doing this." He's a videographer,
I feel like I'm arguing with my 13-year-old self over why I used to think Grind was amazing because it was a movie with skateboards in it.
Fuck you guys.
And how I'm an adult now.
Not even.
No.
I'm agreeing with you. Fuck you.
He's a videographer, and he essentially goes to like, I think it's San Diego. I don't know what scene he's in, but like it's like the deathcore kind of like hardcore scene, and he'll film them in black and white, and he'll slow-mo them and put like jazz, like Frank Sinatra shit over there, and it just kind of shows like it contrasts really well. Like when you slow it down and you just see like it's less about violence and it's more about just synchronized.
It's like those videos of guys doing it to Charleston, but they put it to Daft Punk.
God damn.
So dumb. No, okay, so
it just showcases the beauty and the aggression and like the live music, that raw energy. I like the way they did that.
Would
a Nazi stab you?
Let's showcase the beauty in this music by playing different music.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Okay, so let me
the beauty and the energy.
If I may step in.
You might.
I might.
I like that you keep saying that because I keep thinking that as well. If you might.
So I'm gonna just read this part and I'll give my little spiel. So as the band launches into another song, the sound fades out and we're treated to a full display of that exact energy that Pat was talking about. Mosh pit, but make it high art. Beautiful orchestral synth score. And it was reminiscent of the only time I've ever seen something like this. They elevated a thing that I loved that was notoriously part of a culture that is part of quote unquote the underbelly of society. You know, punk rock isn't exactly seen in a great light up until recently, but in that way, they elevated something to high art that I had never seen on a level like that or ever expressed in this way. But immediately when I saw it, I knew what he was saying. That this is a thing of beauty. This is a thing to be respected. This is a moment to be respected. And it's a moment to be shared among everybody, like culturally. And the only time I've ever seen this in another movie, which is my other favorite movie of all time, La Haine. And in that film, they have a spotlight directly on the hip hop culture in the UK and how even things from breakdancing to graffiti to anything like associated with that culture, they do the same exact thing that they do in this movie. They slow it down and they put beautiful orchestral music behind it to emphasize. It isn't to detract, it isn't to cut away from everything, because again, this is a movie for the people who are in this culture. We know the music. We know how heavy it is. We know how raw and how beautiful that gets. But the way that he portrays it is essentially the way that a lot of us see it in our mind's eye. You know what I mean? We see this thing through this lens. And he is directly putting something on display that isn't notoriously celebrated by the general culture, by the general public, but to the select few that are in the culture itself. It is a thing of beauty and it is a thing to be celebrated, like I said. So the way that he shot it, the way it was executed, all of that, I see it as a huge respect to this culture and to this thing that I very much love. Me and Austin were in the pit together at the show when I was in Michigan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. In what a quick way to dumb down and like really get a quicker point across to what I was trying to say, and kind of what you're trying to say is it's the equivalent for me of like that. there's a lot of them, but there's like an iconic sped up footage of a fox decaying in real time.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
it's kind of like that because you see those videos and you see like jazz or like this slow ambient music over it, and you're seeing rot, you're seeing decay, you're seeing
Yeah,
death, but there is something beautiful in it when it's
yeah.
sped up like that, and you're seeing life living and dying, and
Yep.
and the beauty of that, even though it's disgusting and horrible. And that's kind of what this feels like, that aggressive nature of just beating the shit out of each other.
Yep.
When you slow it down and you change the tone and you do a vibe check real quick on everybody. No, but for real, like you see like
Yeah.
you see the appeal from somebody on the outside. They could see the
Mhm.
appeal that way. And also real quick shout out to underscore night owls underscore
There you
night
go.
with a K.
There
He
you
has like
go.
16,000 followers. His name's Nick. He's a videographer. Or I'm sorry, a
That's what's up.
slowmography.
That's awesome.
And he's a photographer, and
That's what's
that's
up.
his Instagram. Please follow him.
We appreciate you, Nick. Chad, your retort.
I just disagree. I made my point already.
I love it.
I made my point
I love
already.
you.
I can't expand on it further.
And I
Thank you,
love
thank
you
you
for it.
so much
I
for
think-
fucking indulging us.
I think that dude literally just like metaphor is metaphor, sure, like lots of stuff, but to literally just like replace the musical element with a different thing in a way of portraying this musical element, it's a fucking hat on a hat.
This
Just
is
you know,
this episode.
I think that's strong, though. I think that's
This
a little...
episode is just Chad letting us live deliciously.
Yeah, exactly.
You are Black Phillip.
I'm trying not to make everyone listening hate me.
No, I like it though. You're so heels dug in, but in the
man.
best way. I like a
Yeah,
man
Well,
that sticks to his.
Austin's the dirty centrist for this episode.
Yeah, I'm the dirty centrist you're stepping
there
on.
just comes a point where I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. I've given my evidence, you know, like
Yeah.
I'm not as much of a show goer, but you know, and
Yeah.
I definitely am much more of a hip hop person.
Mhm.
But you know, I grew up going to lots of punk shows. I've helped throw lots of punk shows. I, you know, have thrown shows at the Gilman for almost 12 years now.
Yeah, of course.
So, you know, I think it's fair to say that I have a fair amount of experience.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
in this
and
world
nobody's
and in this culture.
yeah,
And that's more of a
nobody's absolutely
disclaimer
refuting
for the
that.
people listening because,
Yeah, for
like,
sure,
you know,
for
you
sure.
guys are like, well, we go to these shows and we do that and
Mhm.
we do this. And
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
like, I've thrown enough of them that I'm like, it's got to be a really, really good one for me to go.
Yeah,
You know
and,
what I
and
mean?
also I feel that we also have a different connection to the shows that you do because I don't think you're very much of a pit person at all, right? Like,
No, I can
yeah.
be.
Oh, really?
But Chad's also coming from the perspective of somebody on the opposite side. Well, I mean, you two both have performed, but for me, I'm very much a fan on the opposite side. While I have the experience as a fan, but also somebody on the stage promoting it, which is a
kind of
different
what
angle.
I mean. Is like it comes to a point with doing shows, both performing and throwing them, where eventually it's hard not to feel like it's kind of like a work setting for you.
Oh yeah, of course.
Whether you're there to just totally
sometimes
watch or not,
that
you
matters
kind-
if you eat the next fucking morning.
well, it's like how you know, I used to drive a truck for a company, and now when I see somebody driving that truck, I'm like, oh, I know what that guy's dealing with.
Yeah, for sure,
like
for
when
sure. You've been
we
in
go
the
to
shit.
yeah, when we go to shows, we're like, oh man, I know what everyone's dealing. Like it's hard for you not to at some point be like, hey man, do you need help like breaking down your drums or something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like hard not to feel that almost like work stress sometimes in those environments.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
like to really be able to let yourself go when you're so used to it being like if I'm at Gilman throwing a show now, I'm like, okay, I hope this amount of people come. Otherwise, I'm going to owe this amount of money.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
You know,
You're looking at it with different optics.
You know,
now, for
yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it becomes like a different kind of thing. So it's
Yeah.
like, but just
That's
as
what I'm
like
saying,
sort of a disclaimer for the
Yeah.
people listening of like,
that's why,
you
but that's
know.
what also why I feel like Austin and I have such a romantic view of this thing because it's also like we've dedicated I mean, literally, I've
Yeah.
dedicated fucking parts of my
It's
body to
just
this fucking
me and
shit, you know what I
Joey
mean?
are like the people that are like, I wish I lived back in the 50s when things were all right. And I'm like, brother,
When
you're a
things
white
were
man. Of
alt
course
right.
you would love to
All
live back
right.
then. Like stop romanticizing the past. We're definitely doing that here. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can acknowledge that much.
Well,
Yes.
not necessarily. I would
No,
say
no,
that
no.
this
But
is
just
yeah,
in
but I
that,
understand.
what
I
we're
understand
talking
what you're
about.
saying. But yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think that's the cool thing about movies in general is that because like literally this is why I love doing this podcast is because there's three different sets of opinions here. There's three different like unique viewpoints on this thing. And it's also coming from people who legitimately have lived this lifestyle and stuff. So that's why this is one of I genuinely, Chad, thank you for indulging me and like doing this episode because this does mean a lot to me, you know, like and I know as much as this was a chore for you to get through again, it does mean a lot to me that I get to talk about
It
this.
was Thursday we planned to see The
Yeah.
Substance, and then we weren't able to see it. And then as soon as I realized that we weren't able to see it because I only had 2 days to watch two movies, I was like, wait, no, I have to watch Green Room tonight? Oh, God damn it! Like,
Anyway, moving on. After their set, the band returns to the green room, but their equipment is already packed up and waiting for them in the hallway. Gabe hands a wad of cash over to the bouncer, Big Justin, to pay the band with. He starts helping them with their bags and directs them outside. But Sam realizes that she's left her phone charging in the room, so Pat goes to retrieve it for her. He walks in, grabs the charger, then looks over to see Emily on the floor with a knife in her skull as a few people stand around, Amber and two members of the band Cowcatcher, one of which we'll come to know as Worm. Amber asks Pat to call the cops, which he immediately begins to do. Big Justin realizes that Pat went back to the room and charges after him. Pat runs past him and makes a run for the stairs, yelling that there's been a stabbing into the phone. But he's intercepted by Gabe, who grabs the phone and hangs up. I love the little like fucking duck move that he does. He just like gets out of his jacket as soon as Big Justin like grabs onto him. It was fucking slick, dude. Because it was little things like that too that also like show you how uh able he is. I'm trying to look for the word. Like how
he's seen Back to the Future.
Yeah, like, but he's cunning though. You know what I mean? Like the dude's actually got like he's not a stupid character, even though he seems like a stupid kid in the
I,
beginning of this movie.
I'm
It
sorry,
really
real
does
quick.
lend
Who are
to
we
that.
talking about? Are we talking about
Pat.
Pat,
Yeah,
our
yeah,
main lead kind
yeah,
of?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
he
yeah,
gets
yeah.
Justin grabs a hold of his jacket and he just like slips out of it and fucking runs
Yep.
down the hall when he's on
Yeah.
the phone. Um. So, yeah, he tells everyone to remain calm. And when Sam asks what happened, he responds with something terrible and tells someone else to stand guard. He walks over to a nearby trailer and comes out with something in his pocket. When he gets back into the hallway, he flashes a gun and directs everyone back into the room. The phone gets a call back, and the ID reads "Emergency Call Center." He answers and says, "Hi, yeah, we got cut off. I was trying to report a stabbing." And then exits the room. I love his like tone of voice in there.
Yes,
It's so
ma'am.
like,
Of
yeah, man,
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so good.
Oh ho ho! Somebody who seems to have been on the business end of a blade.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly, literally, yeah. So when he comes back, Justin asks if he's called Darcy. Gabe tells him that he's on his way. He points to Emily's body and says he knows about that, then points to the band and says, "Not this." Reese says, "You can't keep us here, man. You got to let us go." Gabe tells them they're not being kept there. They're just staying, which was a great line. I was like, that's fucking hilarious. Before he leaves again,
Clearly, these Nazis are also cops.
yeah, 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 right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. So before he leaves again, he hands Justin the gun and tells him that he's up. He urges everyone to relax and reassures them that the cops are on their way. We cut to the gang's bookkeeper, Clark, getting a visit from Gabe, asking for $600 in cash because somebody's dead. Clark reluctantly gives him the money, and as they're walking back together, he asks what else Gabe needs. A true believer, he says. Clark responds with, "How about two?" And we cut back to the room to see Sam looking at the body and saying to Pat, "Maybe she's not dead. Like, there's not a lot of blood. Like, who are we to say it?" And before she can finish, Worm walks over and pulls the knife out of her head, and blood starts spilling out. He says, "There it is."
The committer of this crime goes, "You know, it would be sick if it was harder to clean up the evidence."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's not cleaning it up.
No,
Yeah.
I know, but it's still an asinine thing to do.
Oh yeah, it was.
But
He's like what, like probably in his late 30s, and he's just like a psychotic skinhead Nazi,
Yeah,
and like they're
yeah.
freaking out, and they're a bunch of kids. So to him, it was kind of just like, I'm gonna bring the riff back, but slower.
Yeah.
And like he's just like
he's joking here.
Yeah, he's just flexing on him. And the other thing I wanted to say about his name being Worm, did you watch it with subtitles?
Yeah.
I
It's
did, but they ran
WERM.
out at some point.
It's WERM, which
Yeah.
translates to German as like husband or master of the household, which I found interesting.
Really?
I don't think it really means anything, but yeah, it's a German word for like husband or like
Interesting.
the
I didn't know
master of the house.
Yeah, it's Wormhat.
Oh yeah, I guess it'd be Verm. That's why. Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah.
So Tiger begins trying to convince the others that they didn't see anything and that they need to leave. Justin tries again to calmly reassure them that the cops are on their way. Outside, we see two young men preparing to feign a knife fight in order to corroborate the story that Gabe told earlier to the dispatcher.
We see two young men doing a Dutch rudder is what we see.
So stupid.
It really looks like it. Because they're like hyperventilating because they're getting ready. They're twins. They're getting ready. One's getting ready to stab his brother. The other's getting ready to be stabbed by his brother.
Yeah.
So they like get close. They're touching foreheads. They've got their hand on each other's shoulder, and then they start.
Yeah.
So it does unfortunately kind of look like that.
I had to step away for a minute with headphones on. Did we just say Dutch Rudder from the 2008 hit classic Zach and Mary Make a Porno? I have to say, side tangent that's only a sentence. I grew up at this point in Pittsburgh. That took place in Monroeville Mall. That shit was wild to see because I saw it on DVD, didn't know what it was about, threw it on, and I watched it with Take a Drink, Joey.
No.
Take a drink.
God damn it.
I watched that with my mom. while Jay is just railing that chick on top of those coffee beans. It was so uncomfortable. I wanted to die.
Fucking Kevin Smith explained that on Steve-O's podcast that they got an X rating because they had the shit scene.
Yeah, because I remember, the piece of corn, the iconic piece of corn. Yeah, I had to watch that with my mom, and she loved it. She thought it was hilarious, and I was 14, and I wanted to die inside. And I still think about that occasionally, and I'm glad you mentioned the iconic Dutch rudder.
Anyway,
continue.
He tells them that they're going to be compensated for this, act that they're committing right now, and even more so if they have to do any time. As the cops arrive to arrest the men, we're introduced to Darcy, the leader of the organization. Gabe returns to the room and tells Cowcatcher that they can clear out. As they're leaving, Worm walks over to Pat and asks the title of the second to last song of their set. He says Toxic Evolution. And before leaving, Worm responds with, "That's fucking hard, man. That's the one I did her to." Reese becomes impatient and says, "All right, he's only got 6 bullets. If we all go at once." Justin points the gun at him and says, "Okay, they're called cartridges. The bullet is the part that enters your brain if you keep talking shit. And this gun only has 5 cartridges, not 6, because they're big as fuck and only 5 fit the cylinder. So please, shut the fuck up and don't test me."
That was the most like moist critical versus Sneeko moment I've ever seen. I had to throw in some brain rot right there for you two guys. It's a mag, idiot.
Dude, oh my god. When he said, I was like, that he has some of my favorite line deliveries in this movie. Big Justin was definitely a fucking favorite of mine for this movie. Him and Gabe are definitely two of like the best characters in this. So he tells them they're gonna sit and wait for the next instructions, but Reese is getting more agitated by the second. Back outside, we see Darcy standing on the driver's side of the van wearing gloves while Clark searches it and Gabe reads off the call history from their phone. They realize that Daniel's cousin was the one who directed the band there in the first place, so he would most likely be someone who would know if they were potentially to be expected somewhere else, making him a loose end. Adding on to this, they played their set for an audience who would more than likely have been recording them on their phones, placing them at this location should they go missing.
Because I know when someone starts their set by saying that I'm subhuman and deserve to die for my political beliefs, I film their set. Which, to be clear, it's only okay to say those things about Nazis. You can say those things about Nazis.
Yeah, right.
They
Or
don't deserve to
yourself.
live.
If you want to self-deprecate, that's great.
So while inspecting the van, Clark finds their siphon hose and gas container, which Darcy claims can be of great use to them in finding a solution to this problem. He tells them no guns and then asks, "You have a no trespassing sign posted at the residence? We've got beware of dogs." And he says, "That's better." Inside the room, the band has reached their limit and they prepare to rush Justin before they hear a knock on the door. Gabe tells him not to shoot them, and in fact, he tells them to give him the gun. Once Justin hears Darcy's voice, he takes the bullets out and hands the gun over, which is fucking hilarious. He's like, "Is Darcy here?" And he's like, "I'm here." And he's like, "Well, why don't you just fucking say that?" That shit was funny. Pat tells Darcy they're either only going to open the door for the police or they're going to keep the bullets, which he doesn't argue with. Reese and Amber are immediately suspicious of this, so he blocks the door as Justin is about to leave. Sam agrees and asks where the cops are. Darcy lies and says, "It takes a while to get up here. Just want to make sure nobody else gets hurt in the meantime." Tiger screams and rushes Justin, biting his shoulder. Justin shoves him off and lands a few blows before Reese jumps on.
That was so ridiculous too. Like that's
Okay,
that's your big attack. I'm gonna go bite this guy on the shoulder.
Yeah.
That was
let me get through this. Let me get through this, and we'll stop on it. Jumps on his back to get him in a chokehold. He kicks through the little ventilation slots at the bottom of the door in the struggle. Reese yells, "Get him down!" And Amber jumps in to kick him in the shins with her docs multiple times until he finally falls to his knees, where Reese gets him into an arm lock. Pat and Amber immediately barricade the door with a couch. You may.
And they all hand the gun around and make a big point of having everybody say very loudly in front of their captor that none of them have the balls to pull the trigger, and
or
most of them are uncomfortable holding a gun.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was just like,
Sam is the one. She's like, "I don't like it. I don't feel right." Like
she says that, and then like they hand it around because everyone else goes, "Yeah, same, yeah, same."
Yeah,
like,
literally,
like she voices it, but then other like it moves hands.
So our lead literally says, "No, I can't shoot."
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know if you remembered that correctly because she hands onto it because he tells her he says, "I'm gonna grab it when I'm up. Just hang on to it." He has him pinned down on the arm, and he's like, "Yeah, just hang on to it." So she doesn't actually hand it off until she hands it to Pat later on before they actually go to open the door.
It cracks me up too because I used to live with a dude who really loved Joe Rogan and the MMA and stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, this is so like his fantasy of just like, yeah, I'll get a gun away from the guy, and then I'll put him in an arm bar, and then everyone will clap,
sure.
you know. And
well, they keep making the jujitsu jokes like during the beginning of the movie. They keep telling him like, "All right, calm down, jujitsu." When he slams Tad up against the wall, like we also don't need to go to jail here. So like, yeah, they've been like gearing it up that he is studying because he even says it like I think right now he's gonna talk. He's like, so in a tournament, I snap his arm and he taps out, you know. So yeah, they did kind of set that up, but
no, but it just was funny to me.
It is funny.
It just made me think. It just made me think about a terrible person.
It's a power fantasy.
At this point in the movie, did we have the Sir Patrick Bateman himself tell the audience to go home?
We had Sir Patrick Bateman himself without even changing his accent to play a Nazi.
You mean Patrick Stewart?
Oh, did I say so?
I was like, yeah, Bateman. I was like, when was Christian Bale in this bitch?
Oh man! And then I said it because I was just copying you. I was focusing on the accent.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. Who the fuck are we talking about?
A British Nazi is even weirder than an American.
Did Professor X tell
only a
to
French
go home?
Nazi would be weird.
In the movie, at this point, did Professor X tell the mutants to go home?
This is
That's
a
what I'm asking.
movement,
No,
not a
not yet.
party.
Not yet. Not
This,
yet. I'm gonna
th-
get to that. Yeah.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
because that's what I was wondering. Okay,
So Sam gets a hold of the bullets and loads them into the gun. Pat tells Darcy that everything is fine, but they're just gonna wait for the police along with Justin. Darcy shoves Gabe's face into the wall out of frustration before apologizing to him and telling them, "We'll do it here, then stage it up the road." Back in the room, Reese, still in the arm lock position, says, "So in a tournament, I snap his arm or he taps out and we all get burgers." Amber says, "Snap it." So, I love her little like votes for violence the
Little
entire
quips.
movie.
I think we should point out too that Amber is one of the Nazis.
Yeah, she's one of them. Yeah,
and she was friends with Emily. So when they
Yeah.
come in, she's like weeping that her friend is
Yeah,
dead.
yeah.
And for a little while, like she's kind of still in that state right now, where
Yeah,
she's
she's
like
in
just
shock and like
she's not really
horror.
doing anything. Like she wasn't. I don't think she rushed with them.
No,
But
no. Yeah.
but yeah, so she's
She's just kind of there and like watching everything unfold for sure.
with her horrific hairstyle.
I
have a
like her
weakness
hair.
for that type of
Yeah, I was gonna say,
hairstyle, and it really
I
hurts me
like
because
that
it's a
hairstyle.
terrible hairstyle. But when a woman has it,
She
my
her
knees
her
quiver.
head looks like Klaus from American Dad.
I had a crush on a couple of girls who had that kind of hairstyle. So,
Same.
growing up, so
It
it's
was very
nostalgia for
Tumblr
me.
2014.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Look, we all
So-
grew up. We all grew up when scene girls were a thing. All right.
Uh,
Give it like 2 months, they're gonna be a thing again.
they've already been a thing for
I
like
was
the
gonna
last
say.
year. The Roaring Twenties are back.
Anyways, Sam says she doesn't want to keep the gun, but Reese tells her he'll grab it when he gets up. He asks Justin, "When I let go, what are you gonna do?" And he says, "Butt fuck everyone in the room." So he pulls harder and he says, "You're gonna sit crisscross applesauce. Say it." As he starts to say it, Reese hops up and relieves Sam of the gun. Back in the trailer outside, Darcy asks Clark, "Have you fed them today?" He responds with, "It doesn't matter. They're professionals," implying that they plan to sick dogs on the band. Gabe scribbles the names on a paper nearby. Darcy walks through the bar with Gabe and tells them to put Daniel on the door instead of the usual spot behind the bar. But when they get to the bar, they find that Daniel stepped out for some reason. Then and the relief guy that they came who's like doing his job for him is also going to play a part later on, but I didn't write that down in this one. So they find him sitting in a car nearby with the engine running, and he says that he's just turning it over since he's working on it. Darcy hands him the list and tells him he needs red laces, him plus 4 men. Inside the room, Pat searches Emily's body and finds a pack of cigarettes, a lighter.
Real quick, sorry. For people that don't know, red laces, from my understanding, is just the teardrop tattoo of Nazi culture, right? So like different laces,
it's called
different
earning
things.
your bones. Yeah. It means that they've committed an act of violence.
The blood.
Yeah, pretty much. They're like the hit squad.
I know there's like yellow, there's white, but I don't necessarily know what they mean. But I assume while watching, I'm like, red is clearly blood.
You would think white would be the highest one you could get.
Yeah, I think that's like the starter, if I'm not wrong. You get white laces,
the white belt, the black belt.
Yeah. Even they are like, yeah, white's not that special. Wait, hold on. Not what I said.
Man. Yeah, exactly. So inside the room, Pat searches Emily's body and finds a pack of cigarettes, a lighter, and a napkin with the words Fleischwolf written on it. They tell Justin to empty out his pockets, and after some slurs, he tosses out the wallet, keys, and loose change. Not convinced, he tells him to turn out his pockets, and when he does, he throws over a box cutter and then a cell phone that he breaks in half before giving up. Suddenly, the lights go out, and everyone but Amber begins to panic. She pulls out a lighter and gives Justin a cigarette. She says, "If the cherry does something you don't like, shoot."
Well, I have to point out though.
Go ahead.
Like, so this is kind of my problem with like the characters in this movie is that like we don't really spend enough time with them to get to know enough about them before anything starts because it goes so quickly.
Yeah.
Like all we kind of get is like Pat is nervous. Sam is like loud and opinionated, and Reese is violent, and Tiger thinks he's cooler than he is, but like it's not really much more than that. But then Amber, we meet her, and she's like literally at before the lights go out, she's still like crying and grieving over her friend. And then as soon as the lights go out, as everyone should be panicking, she goes, look how cool I could light this cigarette and tell him, and then tell him to hold it. And it's just like, what the fuck? You were literally just crying about your dead friend, and now you're like, and then she just continues to be like the cool, smart girl the rest of the movie, and it's just like,
she definitely has an
fuck?
arc. I think it was that like log.
It was less of an arc and more of a giant step.
She turns into like Doug Funny's sister. Do you remember her?
Yeah, Judy.
Yeah.
I recently sent a friend of mine a picture of Judy, and I was like, you know, I never thought about this, but then I just saw Judy recently. You know, you totally embody this character, and she was like, "Oh my god, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me."
So, while this is happening, Tiger notices a light coming from underneath the floorboards. He tries to get everyone's attention, but the lights come back on just as suddenly. The show outside is stopped and everyone is told to go home. Let's try again Sunday. No cover charge. Hell, free drinks from 2 to 4. For those of you attending the racial advocacy workshop on Wednesday, assume it's on unless you hear otherwise. And remember, this is a movement, not a party. Everyone
Logan
cheers. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. What was it? Racial advocacy workshop.
Racial advocacy was fucking
I
hilarious,
understand
dude.
like Richard Spencer trying to like be lowbrow or not lowbrow, trying to be like low key about it since he's on like Fox News and CNN. But when you got like red laces on, you got the SS on the back of your bomber jacket. You are
got him on the front
skull. Yeah, you know what I mean though. Like you stop.
Are we the baddies?
There's no optics here. You are a villain and you want to be.
Yeah, but it's also like they love like the terms for shit. They like using
I know.
little, like,
I just hate
terms for shit.
I understand why like higher people in like the power, like Supreme Court and shit will try and be subtle with those fucking terms. But man, when you are just a
when you're outright
violent skinhead stabbing women in the skull, just say that you don't like certain people.
Yeah, they have no problem slinging some of those words around. This fucking movie, I'll tell you that much.
Surprisingly, you only hear that word one time in this movie.
No, you do not.
Nope. Yeah, you do.
You do not. You hear it twice.
Yeah,
I am telling you.
Oh, I thought you meant you didn't hear it at all.
You hear it twice. In this weird way, they're such cartoonish Nazis that they don't really ever do anything Nazi-ish. But there's 2 points where he says. He refers to heroin as being N-word dope.
That's what I was thinking of. The stamp on there was for like another.
But I thought it was kind of interesting. Like that, like there's not like they could have been just some guys like they could have just stumbled into someone who died over drugs and it wouldn't change anything because it's just that they like pissed off the people that are there. It's not necessarily like politically fueled.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's gonna fuck with their bottom line. They need to take care of it.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like in a way, it's like it doesn't make much difference that they're Nazis, but that there's 2 points where Patrick Stewart drops the N-word, and it's just kind of like.
It's like, remember who we are.
It's kind of funny. Yeah, remember Logan. There's a reason Magneto doesn't like me.
He puts the helmet on, and it's just slurs in his brain.
I just killed myself with that one. There's a reason Magneto doesn't like me, Logan.
That's funny as fuck, dude.
I'm a member of the Fourth Reich.
That's funny as fuck, dude.
Magnus, where are the space lasers? Oh my god, Magneto has a Jewish. He does have one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
he does have one. I'm gonna be quiet.
Oh my god! Anyway, that was the best joke anyone said on this show. Oh, that was such a deep cut. That's like a if you know, you know type of conspiracy lore. Jesus, continue.
We see several gang members pushing the van to another location. Back inside, Tiger draws an X on the floorboards. He noticed the light coming from underneath. Darcy returns and asks if they can elect a single voice to speak on everyone's behalf. So they choose Pat. Darcy tells,
which is so weird because he's the least confident of all of them, and like I don't believe that they would vote for him to be like their leader in any way.
It's strange because he's not even like the front man. Like I'd assume like, oh, you're the one that's screaming all the time. He's like the bassist, I want to say, or the
Yeah,
guitar.
he's
a
the
guitarist.
bassist.
Yeah, he's a
bassist.
guitarist.
He's the
Yeah.
bassist. Sam
Is
is
he
the
the bassist?
guitarist.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I
Yeah.
got him
Yeah.
flipped.
So
Sam, Sam is the
I do
guitarist.
think it's strange. Like obviously he's the main character, so he's going to essentially, but at the same time, it is strange for his character that's built up to just
Oh
be
yeah,
thrown like that, be like, you do it. And I'm just like, what do you mean?
yeah. I think it might have just been that he was the only one who was like already yelling, and they're like, "All right,
Yeah,
fuck it."
he
Like,
he
you know
kind
what I
of
mean?
found
Like,
it
They
all.
were like, well,
yeah.
whoever gets voted for might have to reach his arm out of here at some
Yeah, you
point.
kind of dragged us into this.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so Darcy tells them that he just wants them gone, unharmed, and that the gun they have is unregistered, so they hope to have it gone before the cops.
I love this though. He's like, that gun was unregistered. Okay, well then fucking we'll take the gun, and he's like, it was a gift.
Yeah, it was when he tells him when he tells him he's gonna toss it. He's like, "Careful, it was a gift." So
Yeah.
that show was hilarious. I know that I caught that too. That was funny as fuck. So
here,
Pat,
here, pops, for your birthday. I've
yeah,
already
yeah.
filed the serial number off. I mean, it
found
makes
it
sense. These
he-
guys do murders, but like if
Yep.
someone said that to you, I'd be like, "You do murders. I don't
Hey,
trust
you
you."
do murders.
I found this
Clearly, you do
magnet.
murders.
I found this magnet fishing pops. You should have this for yourself. That's like a
Yeah.
huge thing over here. There's a guy in TikTok
Make
from
sure you
Michigan
press
that
your
just
whole thumb on there.
he he just goes magnet fishing, and his whole TikTok is just finding like bombs and guns and explosives and calling the cops. Yeah, I think he's from like the Flint area.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Because like people just throw the fucking gun in
Yeah,
the river,
yeah.
and then people find it when they
That's
go magnet
wild.
fishing. The whole two people that do that.
And then they're like, "Oh fuck, this is tied to a cold case."
It is funny
yeah.
too, though. It's funny because you'd think the cops would be excited, but like at this point, with how many TikToks he's done, even the comments are just like, "Look at the cop's face; they're so fucking even annoyed to be here." Like they see that guy and they're like, "This fucking guy again, Jesus Christ!"
God damn it, all the paperwork.
Yeah.
So Pat consults the group and they decide they'll trade the gun for a working phone, but Darcy refuses. He tells them he would be well within his rights to defend his business from out-of-town strangers who wish him or his employees harm. And I love that way he puts it. He's like, and what if, you know, what do I know? I come to my place of business and there's an out-of-town band locked in a room and maybe there's a hostage.
Yeah.
I love that he put that in there. I was like, that's fucking crazy. So Reese tells Justin to get on the floor so he can arm lock him again and hands the gun over to Sam. Tiger voices his concern that this is a terrible idea, but they figure they've got no other options at this point. Sam empties the bullets out and gives it to Pat to hand over to Darcy. That's what I was saying. The gun moves around. Right
Yeah,
here, for
hot
sure.
potato.
Yeah. So they move the couch from in front of the door, and Amber ducks down to look through the broken vent. As they slowly open the door, she sees red lace boots standing right next to the door and yells, "They're killing us." Someone grabs Pat's arm from outside, and we hear the sound of flesh being sliced open while Tiger fends the attackers off with a huge piece of metal. Reese snaps Justin's arm and hops up to help barricade the door again. All of this happens within a matter of seconds. I was pausing this so many fucking times to get down every little thing that happens because it all happens at breakneck speed.
Like literally breakneck. Like for context, they get there at the 12-minute mark. The first inciting scene of them finding that body is at the 15-minute mark. Yep. We are now probably at like the 22-minute mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's been less time from when they got there than when the movie started. And we've done all of this. Yeah. Like it's, but like it never feels rushed and it never feels dragged. Like it works for me. Like the pacing works, but you are just kind of going like this. Like, you're just like, what the fuck?
Wait, what the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was just in between the arm slashing, which was great because this scene in particular, I loved the way that they shot this, and I love that the way that they it was executed so well because all of the violence that happens mostly happens off screen right here in this one little scene until later on. Obviously, we'll see the on screen, but like that whole effect of having him grab through the door and then like hearing that off screen and just having his reaction makes that so much more visceral.
Yeah.
Even so much so that even at the Q&A that I was at, someone had said, I watched this with, I think there was like with my brother not too long ago, and I have a distinct memory of watching the machete hack open this man's arm. But then I watched it again, and it's not at all the case. It was all like alluded to the point. It wasn't actually showing it. So it was like that's smart fucking filmmaking right there. That's absolutely effective filmmaking.
It's the best parts of like black and white horror, which is hard for me to really grasp onto just from when I was born and the time now. Like to really be scared of those is difficult, but like those best shots in those movies are when the kill's about to be made, Dracula's about to like grab the woman's neck, and we pan from the fireplace onto the wall, and we see the fuck, and you have to imagine it all because everything you think of is 10 times worse, and this does that, but then you get the reveal.
Exactly.
So you're already thinking of it, and then you see it, and it almost was worse when I saw it, which is rare. You always think of something worse, and then you see it, and you're like, "That's disappointing." That was just the wrist for me.
It's
dangling.
Fuck, dude! It's so
you see the bone snapped.
His arm looks like when a cartoon character has a rock dropped on them, and then it bounces off, and they're like a slinky.
It looks. I thought it looked like when you cut up a weenie. When you when you tear it open just a little bit.
It does really remind me of the scene in Suicide Club where she cuts her arm off.
I was gonna 100%. That in like this is like weird to reference, but like the last Harry Potter movie where Ron gets no, but like when it gets dark in the last one and they're on the run,
but go on.
Hogwarts Legacy, man. It was on sale. It was on sale. I had a moment of weakness. It was $20. But listen, no,
look, yes, and doesn't mean make a heartfelt.
It's guilt. It's not heartfelt.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yes, Ron doesn't mean that you have to confess.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the white guilt in me from this Nazi talk.
Yeah, for real.
I'm talking to two brown men about neo-Nazis for the last hour and 40 minutes. It's getting
I'm sweating over here, dog.
I am. I'm fucking sweaty. My AC's broken. The white guilt's kicking in. No. But Ron in the last movie, they jump through one of those portals to escape, and he gets hit with like an attack from a wand. And it was weird seeing that in theaters, like growing up with Harry Potter. It's so visceral. It's like the same type of wound, but it wraps in like a twisting motion around his arm.
Yeah.
And it looks just like that. And that's what I think of every single time I see this. So it's just weird to think of like Ron Weasley getting attacked by Patrick Stewart as a neo-Nazi in Oregon in a punk band, even though he's a wizard at Hogwarts. That's and that's a topic that I just don't even know.
Oh man. So once they get the door closed, we see the full extent of the damage done to Pat's arm. It's been hacked in several places by a machete. Justin gets to his feet and attempts to attack, but Reese gets him locked in a chokehold until he briefly passes out. Sam asks how long it'll take until he's completely out, and in this moment, Amber reaches over to grab the box cutter from earlier and very slowly inserts the blade into the belly and carves upward.
I do want to talk about this.
Beautiful, dude.
But right before we talk about this, I thought what I was about to bring up here happened here, but it actually happened before he opens the door and his arm gets attacked. But like just their dialogue as they're considering opening the door to give the gun away, they literally say things along the lines of like, at this point, we're just buying time. And then another chimes in with like, at this point, I'm just curious. At this point, fuck it.
Yeah, Reese has him in the arm like, hey, man, at least I'm just fucking curious at this point.
Yeah, and for people that are like, these characters are dumb, these characters are irrational, they are, but like every choice here is one of someone in a moment of like experience and genuine terror. Like they're not dumb characters that do dumb shit, like not look behind them or like not like they run upstairs instead of out the door they passed, like that's dumb. But like these are just like suburban kids probably just thrown completely into the element of like just dealing with these animals and they're just acting on impulse. And like they're not an actor with a script, but they're just these like idiot punks with moralist monsters. And like the two groups that have no impulse control and no rationale they're both trying to survive. Like, as bad as the skinheads are, they're trying to survive. They're like, fuck these guys, we're evil people, but we don't want to go to jail. And then the kids are just like, we're not gonna die because no one wants to. And it's they do stupid shit here where they're like, fuck it, let's open the door. You know what's gonna happen. But like, you're trapped in a room. What are you gonna do? And in a lot of movies that would piss me off. But like, every dumb thing in this movie, I don't see a dumb actor doing a dumb choice from a dumb script. I just see a kid terrified. And
an actor accurately portraying someone who would be in this type of situation.
Stupidity,
with no prior like experience or any.
They're like,
can't even fathom this shit.
They're like stupid until they're not, though. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, for sure. And I think that's what I'm saying. I think that's like what comes with one of those things where you finally tell yourself, all right, we gotta lock in, boys. Like,
and there, yeah.
I feel like, you know what I mean? I don't feel like it's not like an unnatural progression. It doesn't feel like that to me. They do feel competent, but they feel like still panicked in this motion, because it's like, I don't think I would have very much of a better result if I were placed in a situation.
No, I would have taken the gun and shot myself in front of both of you, honestly. I would have ate the gun in front of both of you. I'm like, dude, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's not, it is one of those things that makes this a little bit more endearing, like their actions, because I didn't see it as, like you said, stupid or anything. I saw it as, yeah, man, he just wasn't thinking in that moment, and just that's a reactionary thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, like up till now, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So outside, Daniel Lee loads up the band's gear and asks what happened inside. Darcy tells him that a band from out of town hurt one of their own. And when he asks who it was, Gabe tells him that it was Emily, and he flies into a rage, asking why they're not just barging in there and killing them. Darcy tells him they're playing this wisely until they can get everything under control. Back inside, the band tries looking for a way out, and Tiger finally gets the floorboard loose with the help of Reese. They uncover a heroin den the gang was attempting to conceal. As Amber is jumping down into the cellar, Pat tells her, "I'm sorry about your friend." I thought that was such a little sweet moment. I was like, "Oh, God damn it, man!" Like,
we should mention too, the reason that in this uber realistic movie with so much realism in it, that this guy whose arm is spaghetti is okay, is because they duct taped it.
Listen,
not yet.
So duct tape is magical.
Yeah, they haven't done it yet, but we'll get
fixes
there.
Everything.
But I loved the whole uncovering the heroin den, which also would have been a reason why they don't want to use guns around that area and like actually shoot in that room. I was like, that's probably why he's telling him no guns. But then later on,
does heroin like explode or something? What do you?
I think some of the chemicals that they would have had, they have like a whole fucking station down there. I was like,
they did when
setup.
He's hiding behind like a shelf of something later in the movie, and it does literally have like the chemical sign of like flame.
Yeah. So where am I? Oh, back inside, the band tries looking for a way out, and Tiger finally gets. Oh, sorry, I just read that. They realize it's a dead end, so they regroup. Tiger grabs a roll of duct tape and starts wrapping up Pat's arm. He goes into a pep talk.
Now he's healed.
Yeah, now he's healed. He goes into a pep talk talking about treating this like paintball, and the bachelor party that he was involved in, where they were paired up with a group of ex-Marines. But before he can finish, Reese interrupts to ask Tiger if he's done, because they're already getting ready to make a run for it. And I will say, Jeremy talked about this anecdote right here, the whole paintball thing. This is a real story. It actually happened to him. It was at his bachelor party, I want to say. And it was one of his, they just didn't have enough guys paired up with the other, or to pair up to make their own game. So they had to throw them in with another team. And so they threw him up against a pair of like ex-military guys who were like doing fucking hand signals. They were playing tactically and everything. And he was just, he starts it here, but he's like, they were just fucking wrecking us. Like they were mopping the floor with us. Absolutely. But it was funny to listen to him talk about that live, because it was like, it really is just 1-to-1. That's like an actual life story that he threw in here. And this is funny. Reese says, "We won't all live, but I don't know, maybe we won't all die." I love that scene. They all give their final answers to the Desert Island Band question earlier. Sam says Simon and Garfunkel. Reese says Prince. And Tiger sticks with the Misfits. Under her breath, Amber says Madonna and Slayer.
I feel like the implication is supposed to be that they're all posers, but also the rest of the film, the implication is not that. So I'm just like, what was even the purpose of including this?
I think what it was is that you see them, like we were talking about, kind of like if the music slaps, the music slaps. I think that's kind of what that is that is showing like their actual tastes, because like you're saying, it's kind of this front where they were
posing earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that, but again, that like endears me to them even more, because like I was that fucking dumb kid saying like, oh, like fuck all these other bands and these are the hardest ones and this and that, but like I'll listen to that shit in my headphones. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you know, and I think that's what kind of what it was. It wasn't like, again, they're just kids. Like, it's just kids doing kid shit, and it makes sense in that reality.
I mean, I do famously hate children, so.
But yeah, I really, really enjoyed that little aspect of it. And again, you know, Pat doesn't say a single word. He can't come up with a single one. They look at him and he's just like, I don't know.
He's like, I gotta out you guys.
Yeah.
I slipped on an ice cube and got covered in boo-boos.
I slammed my penis in the car door.
He slammed his penis in the car door?
I slammed my penis in the car door.
Joey, he slammed his penis in the car door.
All right. Anyway, they make their way out into the main room. But as they do, Clark arrives with his attack dogs and lets one of them loose on Tiger. It jumps up on him and tears at his throat, killing him. This causes the band. Go ahead.
It like
I was waiting.
It like runs up. It like runs up to him and he just goes, here's my throat. Go ahead. He just
it runs. It's not even that long or as big of a distance between the doorway and them. So I could see that shit catching him off guard because he turns the corner.
Joey, say what happens to the next scene, because I have something about that, but I have to talk about like the next two scenes, like the thing that happens right after this. You know what I mean?
Stop me when I hit it then.
All right.
So this causes the band to scatter. Reese jumps out of a back window, but a pair of skins are waiting for him and beat him half to death with a hammer. Sam grabs a fire.
I think they stab him.
No, they're hitting him with a hammer. It's very hard to fucking see it, but you hear the blows. Like he's just like you hear it's not like actually stabbing him. He's hitting him with a heavy object.
Okay.
Yeah, because later on you also see marks on his face. They show his body. You see you see like blood all over his fucking face.
All right. So real quick, right there, I just wanted to get that out.
Yeah.
So like we have this whole thing about paintball. With this whole like monologue that you'd see in like a cheesy 80s movie, like Rambo-esque action movie. Like the finish. Yeah, exactly. The pep talk that he didn't get to finish because where it would be tropey to like give a morale booster, everyone's like, dude, fuck off. We're dying right now.
Yeah, he's like, you're done too.
He's like, dude, your hand is falling off. We don't care what you have to say.
Yeah.
But then they're just like, fuck it. We have to go. Because it's either we die here or we leave. You can't cower and wait, but you also can't just run.
I love what Archer says in the show and FX. He's like, I can't wait in the hallway my whole life.
Yeah. No. But the pep talk that he doesn't finish, he literally says you can't cower and wait, but you also can't just run. And so like what he's doing essentially, he's like, fuck it, we can just wait here, I guess. And they're like, no, we gotta go. Like, let's fucking go, boys. Like, so like we see them go out. They have no ability to do anything. They have no plan. We literally see them have a back and forth being like, should I hide or should we hide? Whatever you want, man. And then
he's like,
someone and then he looks at the girl and the girl's like, should we split up? And then he's just like, totally, I guess. Like they have no idea what they're doing. And they're these like 19, 22-year-olds completely out of their element and dropped into like literal fucking war. And like they're punks, but they're art punks. They're in it for the music. They're in for raging for the art. They're not raging for the bloodshed.
Yeah.
So to be completely thrown into something they can't handle, they aren't stupid characters. They're grounded people experiencing the shock and adrenaline of a life or death crisis. And that's what I mean. So like when the dog attacks him, like you get one of them that experiences, there's flight, there's fight, there's flight, and there's freeze.
Yep.
When the dog attacks, he completely freezes. He literally like puts his arms up and he just
Mhm.
freezes.
Mhm.
The other one, when he jumps out the window, he just books it. He has flight.
Yeah.
And he jumps out the window, not thinking, just running on adrenaline.
Yeah.
And then he just gets beaten and fucking whatever to death. And then we see the other characters that are like, they're scared, they're cowering, but they're like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just gonna fight. And then that's when we see, was it Sam? We didn't get there yet, but right here, Sam's gonna grab
She's
a fire
about
extinguisher.
Yeah, she's about to. Yeah.
And we have this chance to regroup and then like resettle. But you're getting like that fight, that flight, that freeze, that
Mhm.
real like response that we have. And you see both examples right here. And it ultimately leads to failure. And then we have a chance where these characters that are left alive like have that fight response. So I just thought that was interesting, that it's very like on the nose
right.
there.
You're right. It's all full display for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Each
like
of
it's
the
stupid,
reactions.
but yeah.
No, but it works. It absolutely.
Yeah,
That's a
their
great way to
actions are
lose.
dumb, but like with
Yeah.
that, like seeing that, I'm just like, all right, yeah, that's very
It makes
honest.
sense. Yeah, like logically, it makes sense that
Like
would
again, I
happen.
just put the gun in my mouth. I'd fight but myself. I'd just be like, yeah, you win. All right, bambo.
Yeah.
Like I'm not dealing with Patrick Bateman as a Nazi. Fuck off.
Patrick Bateman.
Patrick, goddamn it.
I thought that was ironic.
It's canon.
No, it
Yeah,
wasn't.
it's canon. Yeah, it's canon.
I thought you were. Yeah, I thought you were.
That was
fucking around.
fantastic, dude. That was so good.
Carry on.
So Sam grabs a fire extinguisher from the hallway and uses it on one of the thugs who comes in through a side door, causing him to retreat. Amber gets rushed onto the stage by a dog and grabs a mic stand to defend herself. She's rescued when Pat grabs the plugged-in microphone and uses the feedback to fend off the four-legged attacker. The three, and it was, this is the part she's fucking up that dog like with the mic stand for sure, dude. Like it's fucking, that is crazy. The three remaining survivors head back into the green room to plan out their next move. Outside, Darcy grows impatient and sends in Daniel to finish the job off with another skinned Jonathan. Gabe drags over Reese's half-alive body, and Darcy tells him to let him bleed out because it's good for the time of the death. The dead are collected by the gang, and the survivors prepare to fight. Daniel and Jonathan burst through the door. They're met with a cloud of fire with a cloud from the fire extinguisher, but Daniel pushes Sam down, and she jumps down into the cellar. Amber tells Daniel that Worm found out Emily was leaving and that the song Fleischwolf or Meat Grinder was their cue to murder her. Which I thought, was neat.
Which, okay, to me, that was just such a incomprehensible, unnecessary mystery that didn't exist until they told us it did. But also, literally earlier, they said, "What's the name of your song? We killed her to your song."
Yeah, I did it. I did her to it. Like I killed her to your song, but then they're like, "Oh, well, we killed her to Fleshwolf." That toxic evolution.
And then it's just like,
I think it was they say that was their cue. I don't think they actually murdered her to that song because she said it was the cue, but he tells later on, or beforehand, he was like, "Yeah, that was the one I did it to."
But it's just like, ultimately, who cares? What does that matter? That what the mystery there isn't even a mystery here. Like it doesn't really matter why they killed her. That by the time you find out it has something to do with heroin, it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
but then to go like, this is the song we killed her to, it's like, oh, okay.
It's not like a bad thing to throw in there, but there really was no payoff to it because it didn't add anything.
Like they found the note in her pocket. Why would she have a note in her pocket with the name of the song that they planned to kill her to?
It felt like something that was like scrapped in like the script, but they kept in like the beginning of it. But like it was like a separate thread that could have kept going.
I can't definitively say that there was something that I picked up on even on that. I really would like to know what his intention was behind that though, because that does seem like something that I would love to, have an answer to.
The best I could pull out of it is like Worm was just fucking with them, but then it's also just like obviously he was, because they were in the green room 10 seconds before she was murdered. How could he have possibly killed them to their song anyway?
Well, 10 seconds in the movie time, but yeah, they don't really show the passage of time.
Well, because like they go get their shit from the green room, and then you see Justin walking them out of the green room, and then as they're leaving, like literally as soon as they get them out of the room, they stab her, and then as soon as then he's like, oh, Sam's like, oh, I forgot my phone, and he's like, okay, let me just go, run in there and get it. So it's literally like I don't know, the timeline on when she actually died doesn't really matter, but it's so conflicting because they went out of their way to include like multiple lines of dialogue about it. It just seemed like they killed her as soon as they left the green room because they just figured they're gone, whatever, fuck them. Those are the out-of-towners. Let's stab her in the eye. We're never going to see them again. And then they came back because the door wasn't locked. That was sufficient. But then to add in the layers of what song did she die during, and then to put a note in her pocket with the title of one of the possible songs she died during. It just feels like that's from a different script where it's the mystery of how this girl died. When in reality, it was just
that, I can agree with that.
It was like she died by Nazi. That's all that matters. That's what matters. That's what matters.
It's true.
These guys aren't even if the main characters are posers. These Nazis, technically aren't because they'll murder people for crossing them.
They are about
They're true believers,
exactly.
Like most of these fucking cowards you see walking around with like an iron cross tattoo because they're like, this is like the smallest, teensiest, like no one's even gonna figure out this one has to do with it, but I can still feel like a little cool guy for having it out there.
It's so real. Stop.
They're not really about it.
No, but I do like that little bit of dialogue that Amber has off screen. Like you hear it, but it's kind of in the background as what's his name? Tiger. As Tiger is ripping at the floorboards, you hear her saying, they're like, how do you even fall for this stupid shit? And she's like,
this was crazy to me too.
Yeah. Well, she was just kind of saying, she's like, well, it's just a little complicated. And they're like, yeah, but it's stupid. And she's like, well, let's just say that the people who were mean to me growing up weren't white. And I was like,
I took it as like she was like people were after her. She had nowhere to go. Like, I'm not defending this. I think this is actually kind of dumb to be fair. But like in her mind, she had nowhere to go. Maybe she didn't have a family. People were after her, trying to kill her. They weren't white. She's like, well, there's skinheads around. They'll protect me. I'm white too.
Yeah. It's the whole when you go to prison, you have to join a race gang thing. I think that's just a thing you accept as a man. If I go to prison, I'm gonna have to learn some Spanish.
I'm gonna have to do some arm workouts.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'm gonna get arthritis in my elbows.
It did seem weird to just randomly have a part where they were like, "Look, we know that they're like hanging out with a Nazi, but maybe there's like some acceptable reasons for becoming a Nazi sometime."
No, yeah, I didn't see that as them trying to justify it.
I mean, that is 100% what it is, though. They're like, "How did you fall in with Nazis?" Well, black people were mean to me.
Yeah, because they want you to like her.
We get it.
Yeah.
They want you to like her, but they don't have the time because, like, I like the punchiness of the script, but with that, there's no time to flesh out any character. And with a character like the ones that we're seeing in the band, we don't really need much. We can have the archetypes of the jock and the hothead and the anxious one. But with her, it's like she's a Nazi, but we want to like her. So we need to have something to gain trust with. Like, I feel like with Mavis Bacon's character, what's his name? I'm trying to be nice. Macon Blair. I'm sorry, Macon Blair.
With Maple Bacon.
Maple
Bacon. Yes, for Tim Horton over here. Yeah, fucking no. But like, I feel like they do a good job with redeeming him because they don't redeem him. He's still a Nazi, but he clearly we're going to get into it, but there's some regrets there from the get-go, and there is some collusion's not the right word, but there's some like optics that are
it didn't take much for him to swing the other way.
But it worked because like
within
what he's seen,
absolutely,
and what he's dealt with his hierarchy system, and what she's dealt with, it just feels like you need to like her now. So black people were mean to her, probably.
That's fair, and I'll give you that. And it never read to me as them trying to endear you to her, like as a character. It just meant like for me, it was kind of just like building out that world where it's like, yeah, of course, like someone who just felt like they didn't have any other choice. It's the same
Yeah.
reason why people
And
join a
that's
lot of
very
gangs.
real. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
very
exactly.
real.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Yeah,
the same
yeah,
reason,
but
you know?
but joining a gang is different than joining a white
I
supremacist
don't know. Have you met a
cult.
cop?
I mean, I have, but
Thank you,
those are
Austin.
also white supremacists, you know?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I'm just saying like it's much worse. Joining a gang because
Yeah, I feel.
because all of the systemic things around you,
Yeah.
like that's one thing, but being like the black people who have had all these systemic things holding
Well,
them
then
back,
I think that's
they were mean to me, and now so I had to join the white supremacy because the
yeah.
black people were mean to me, and
But I
it's
think
just
that's
like
like it
go
lends
fuck
into
yourself.
what Austin's saying. You don't have a lot of time to flesh out a character like this in this time because we're barely
Yes.
introduced to her and stuff.
So
So
so so because he didn't have a lot of time, he did a poor job.
I mean, I
I
don't know.
agree.
No,
I
I don't think.
agree.
I just think like if you had a little more time with her in the flesh, like to flesh this out, and like you had a little bit of longer script, you might be able to get to the bottom of that. Where it was like we can maybe add on to that story that she just.
I I agree with you, Joey, but I
Mhm.
think what Chad's saying isn't that like if we had more time, but just like given what we got,
Yeah, for sure. No,
it
that's what
was
I'm.
the
That's
cheese
Yeah,
was a
exactly.
little too funky, even
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
blue
No,
cheese.
exactly.
I've had like my grandpa apparently was pretty racist because one time he got jumped by black guys.
Hmm. Yeah,
And I'm just like,
yeah. It's a
okay,
pretty fucking
but
common thing in
that's
my
not
family with
every that's not
bullshit ass
every
bigotry.
but that's not every black person.
Did
Yeah,
he drive a
exactly.
Gran Torino?
So for him for the rest of his life, right? So for him for the rest of his life, his justification was
One time.
three black guys jumped me one
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So it's not, let's just say the people who jumped me weren't white.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But like
No, I get
Oh,
that.
it's
Yeah.
so real.
but
Oh,
like that doesn't mean that
yeah.
hearing that about my grandpa only like a few years ago, I never really knew him. I knew him as a baby, but I don't have any
Mhm.
memories of him.
Yeah.
Um, like it doesn't take away from all the good things I've heard about him,
Hmm.
but it does call into question a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sign of the times bullshit. Yeah.
But it ends up being the same argument of let's just say the people who beat me up weren't white, and it's just like
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean you have to join be racist or join it's not even a gang. Like Nazis aren't even a
This one
gang in
definitely
my
is an
eyes. They're like
organized fucking division though.
I feel like it's just like I don't even want to give them the respect of saying that.
Yeah, that's fair. There
You
are,
know what
but
I
that's the
mean?
thing though. Like skinhead gangs, like they were
Yeah,
saying,
when you
EMS
literally
Sharp are
I feel
literally
like
have a
they're like there needs to be
Oh,
a new
there's
word.
yeah, there needs to be a
I
German
I
word for
agree. I agree
that.
with what you mean, like morally and ethically, like where you're coming from. But in the terms of the movie, when you have a bookkeeper like dictating
Yeah,
the
literally
fucking
the
accounting of
funds.
the
Yeah.
murder you're about to
Yes,
commit, and you're like,
they are
that's
obviously an
that's a gang.
organized crime
Yeah.
syndicate
Yeah,
for
Yeah.
yeah.
sure. But I
Yeah.
just mean like I don't know. It just
As a
feels like
principle,
it muddies the waters to be like the Crips are a gang, neo Nazis are a gang. It's like
yeah.
they're you kind of
Yeah, I
you
feel.
know.
I mean, they always call the cops the biggest gang in the world. So
It's an
yeah,
Yes,
ideology more than a
for
and
gang.
sure.
I make that joke as well, and like
Yeah.
it is true. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's
But
any organization of criminal activities, with the intent of like exploiting
I
people
guess I
or
feel like
whatever the
they're
fuck.
more of a cult,
Yeah, for
even though they're
sure.
obviously doing criminal things.
Yeah.
It goes deeper than like because for most gang members, it's if I don't do this, I'm not going to eat.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's a different
to turn it into if I don't do
absolutely.
this, then maybe the races will mix.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
That's good.
you're gonna muddy the waters, like you said.
you don't muddy the
Yeah,
waters.
Don't
I
muddy
feel
the
that.
waters.
I really, like I said, I feel like, yeah,
God.
they didn't want to spend too much time getting into the character because they don't. This really, even by the ending, like exampled by the ending, they don't need to give you all the answers to the movie. Like they don't,
Hey, can I just point out her name is
yeah,
Imogen
get it out.
Gay
Yep,
Poots.
Absolutely.
The middle name is what really sent me.
You feel good about
Imagine gay
yourself?
pudding.
Stupid ass. All right. Anyway, we're back to
That's
it.
a whole subreddit.
Anyway, outside, Darcy asks Gabe why he didn't want Daniel on door duty that day, and he tells him nothing concrete, but he and Emily, and which prompts Darcy to search Daniel's car, where he finds their luggage packed in the trunk, along with a steel baseball bat wrapped in plastic.
Mm-hmm.
He tells
Clearly evidence from a Ray Liotta Goodfellas
literally.
situation.
Yep, exactly. He tells Gabe that it was from last year's boot party and that it was supposed to disappear. He kisses Gabe on the forehead and tells him, "You and Worm saved us all."
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Before we see the bat, he grabs that picture of two women, and then he says something about how they're like lovers or something. Like, oh,
Lovebirds,
so
yeah.
cute, lovebirds.
I don't think it was I think it was him. I think it was Daniel and his girlfriend and Emily.
Okay, because in once I didn't really see the other side of the photo, but that's another time that I rewound it like once or twice. On the left side. I don't know. There's a blonde woman and a dark-haired woman, and I was like, oh, was there like a lesbian romance that was hidden between our lead Nazi
Amber
woman and like the dead woman?
Yeah.
I didn't know, but that felt like again like another thread from this like dead woman that like fell in there somehow and like just kind of got lost in the editing process, because like I didn't, maybe I missed something, but I didn't really pick up on where like two women being lovebirds took place.
It really was like it is. Yeah, it was an evidence.
It was just so vague.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what is happening here? Darcy realizes that Daniel was about to flip. He was about to go on the run, and he was going to turn evidence towards them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's
And
why he turns towards Gabe and tells him, "Thank you for saving us all."
And that's why at the beginning he says, "Don't fucking say anything about me or him or her."
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
But also, to me, it ends up being kind of a huge plot hole, because at the end of the day, just because this band is in town and your show fell through, you're gonna call your cousin, who you know is fleeing from the Nazi gang that he's in, to come to your house, and you're gonna tell him stay for one more night so that we can make these guys feel better.
That's
And
also
then
working
you,
on
as
the
the guy,
assumption. That's working on the assumption that we knew that, though. I don't know if he knew that he was going to be on the run. He
I
just
think
said he was coming to stay.
do you think he's gonna tell his friends like, well, he's leaving the Nazi cult
I don't
and
know.
he's trying?
I don't know.
It's
his cousin at the end of the day. Like my cousin was like, "Hey, let me go crash." And be like, "All right."
So if he didn't know, that's fine.
Yeah,
but it doesn't remove on Daniel's side. I would be like, if he was like, "Hey man, is there anything you do?" I'd be like, "No, I'll see you in a couple hours when I'm at your house." You know what I mean?
Sure,
And then I
yeah.
get there and be like, "Hey, dude, this is way more important. Like, I've got evidence of a murder. Like, these guys will fucking kill me if they find out." So I made
a whoopsie.
It just ends up being like, yeah, kind of narratively, it's interesting that he has this reason for leaving them, but ultimately, it just doesn't feel real that someone would be like, yeah, I'll just go to the show tonight and stay longer, because all his shit is packed. So why wouldn't they just leave?
Well, he didn't expect to be there. He has to save face. He was still gonna do. That's the thing. He was still gonna do.
Yeah, if he just dipped out, it'd be weird. But at the same time, I see what you're saying.
There's no face to save though, because they still expect him at the racial advocacy workshop.
So on Wednesday, but that wasn't. Yeah, but they're like, it's probably the weekend and started like Friday, so it would have given him some time. You know,
I mean, if you're running from a gang, you just go. You know, like if you don't show up to the show, they'll be like, "Oh, I wonder where he's at." They're not going to be like, "He's running and turning state's evidence on us."
It is interesting though, because it is interesting because just like with the gang here, how they're trying to, again, they're preserving the optics of the situation. They're like, oh, if we kill him here, it's got to look this way and we got to do this, and so we got to like do. So they're trying to, as hard as they can, to organize this like viewpoint of their story.
But do you remember when they catch him sitting in his car and he has the engine on because he's thinking about just leaving right then and there? But we don't know that at that time. But that's what he's doing, is he's sitting there with the engine on thinking about just dipping. And they come up and go, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just turning the engine over. It's a older car. I just want to make sure." And then they go, okay, well, give him your keys. And he gives him a spiteful look and puts it in the car instead of handing the keys to
I
him.
didn't even catch that.
Because why would you bring that piece of evidence to the show? He didn't plan on going to the show. He
I think
only
it might
went.
have been there at the compound.
I don't think so. It was buried underneath all the rest of his things.
Yeah,
So
because they gave it to
that
him.
was supposed to be gone. He
They
was
gave it to
supposed
him
to
last
dispose of it.
Easter.
So he's been holding on to it in his house up until now. And then he decided to or somewhere.
His house.
Can you fucking imagine? Like
he's
he
been
gets
holding
this
on
last
to
Easter. It's like probably September. He got this last Easter, and he's just cruising to all these events with that just shit in his trunk. He's not
right?
he's not an adrenaline junkie. He's just too lazy.
Yeah, for sure.
It just
I know
seems
I don't clean my car out for months at a time.
It seems very clear to me that they started that day going, okay, we're gonna get the fuck out of here. We're gonna go to Tad's. We're gonna stay there for one night, and then we're gonna go to the next place, and whatever that next place is, probably because they're like somewhere around like Hood River, like between like when you're in Portland, if you go straight north, you go over the river, and then you hit a tiny town called Vancouver in Washington, and then you're up in Washington proper from there. But if you go east, it's not 80. I don't know what number the highway is, but it goes all the way across the state, and that takes you into like Idaho. So if you go down that road like an hour from Portland, you end up at Hood River, which is a beautiful place, awesome place to play. Shout out to my boy Shay, fantastic place. But it seems there's somewhere along that stretch of highway, which is like there's like 6 hours of highway if you want to go all the way to Idaho. So they're probably 3 or 4 hours from Portland.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the plan is go to Portland. There's police, like real police there. We'll go to the police there, and then that will be the end game. But it just seems very clear. They packed the car. They were ready to go. They got this call. They were like, shit, he's helping us. Let's help him. We'll go do this. But ultimately, it's just like, man, that's a real fucking like bad and hard to swallow in a realistic lens decision.
It's bad, it's dumb, it's stupid, and it's stupid, and it's dumb, and it's bad.
And he's clearly on edge because of it. So at least they put that into it where he's clearly like he doesn't want them to have his car keys. He doesn't want them to be looking in his car. He's like trying not to draw attention to it. He's even I
like that
scene,
aspect
he's thinking about leaving.
Yeah, I like that aspect of him like being on edge about something, and you're not like that's the mystery of the movie.
I think there's something good there, but I also think in the execution, like I think similar to how I felt about Longleg or Cuckoo, I feel like this could have had a couple more passes, and we could have smoothed these things out and found a way for them to work better. But as it is, it kind of ends up being like, if I was Daniel and I got that phone call, I'd be like, hey, I'm really sorry. Just tell them they're fucked. You know what? I'll just give them $200. Tell them you're really sorry. I'll pay you that back when I see you.
Because like I've seen this twice when it came out, maybe 3 times, and then haven't seen it really since. Maybe one time that I can't remember, but I'm seeing it now for the first time, like 10 years later, third, fourth time I'm seeing it. And I never realized any of this subplot going on. I was like rewatching it today, and I'm like,
that's what I said earlier. I thought it was going to blow like, Austin's mind.
I thought it was something like I knew something was going on, but I'm like, oh, maybe he's just like cheating with another, like that girl's cheating on her boyfriend that's another skinhead that's this guy's friend and blah blah blah. But you do pick up on it later when he flips. It's not really a spoiler, we've talked about it in depth. He flips later, and I'm like, oh, he's just flipping nonchalantly. This is so sudden and random. But with all that context, like just seeing this 4 times now, probably at this point, I'm just like, I'm just now either I'm dumb, which is not far from the truth,
it's honestly,
or it's so breakneck.
It's genuinely one of those things where the shock of everything happens at you so hard, and you're just like, oh shit,
this,
and then like you uncover those later, those like retrospective layers. You know what I mean?
This is like trying to give me like the plot line of like a Mario like 64 game or Mario Galaxy, but I'm getting the product of like a Wario game. You know what I
mean? So an even better game. No, I'm just kidding.
But like that, like you're getting 60 mini games in a row, but also here's this deep Elden Ring lore. Pay attention, loser.
Yeah. So let's try and finish this up. We're almost at the end. So
I will say we're doing a great job in terms of pacing for us.
I know.
Shit, thank you.
It's so bad. Normally.
So, Pat and the others jump down into the cellar and tell Sam that Daniel can help them escape. Darcy distributes the firearms to the gang and tells them to keep their grouping tight because they don't want to leave evidence. As he does this, he's struck with some kind of realization and turns to one of them to ask, "What did we forget?" And he turns and asks the guy who was bartending in Daniel's place earlier. So the survivors make their way out of the room again, and Daniel tells them that there's a river nearby they can follow to help find to find help before he stops behind the bar. Sam asks how they expect to get past the front door, and Daniel reaches underneath to grab shotgun shells. He says, "I know something you don't. I know where we keep." Before he can finish, he gets a face full of buckshot. Pat quickly grabs the nearby machete and hacks into the attacker's neck. After I forgot, Sam sprays him with the fire extinguisher a little bit, and then when he hits him with the machete in the neck, you see the blood extra pop out from the like powder on him. Such a
even the micro acting here from I keep forgetting our lead's name in the movie. Tom? Pat. Jesus. All right. But that's the thing. Like, I love these characters, but they're so loose. They're so like 2D for me, like in depth, that I can't remember any of their names, but I love them, but I don't even see them as people.
No, that's
names.
fair. That's fair.
Which makes me sound like a Nazi, and I swear I'm not. But like, they're not subhuman. They just have no character. No, but like Pat, like even the micro acting on like his twitching, and like he's taking in the scene. He's seeing the fire extinguisher. He's seeing the shotgun, and he kind of panics. He's twitching, and then like he doesn't just grab the machete. He's kind of looking around, but in this like fraction of a second, he does so many movements that just like show you like the just the quick time in the moment. You're thinking, oh, machete, all right, neck, boom, bam, extinguisher to the face, machete to the neck, shotgun.
Even when after he hits him, he still has this look of like, oh shit, what did I do?
Yeah, like, and even the guy that gets hit is just like, oh shit, what's going on?
Yeah.
Not screaming in agony. He's just like, everyone's in shock this whole movie.
Yeah. So Amber grabs the shotgun, and Pat puts a few shells in his pocket. Clark is about to enter with the dogs when he sees this and backs out. They decide to walk out the front and are met with a hail of gunfire. A bullet hits Amber in the leg, and Sam grabs a shotgun to continue firing, but doesn't see Clark setting a dog on her and is killed with a bite to the neck. Pat and Amber duck back inside, and he begins wrapping her wound in duct tape.
Not even in like a bad way, but just simply, and this is what the characters do. She like unloads the shotgun straight down into the dirt.
She's just like fuck.
And to me, this is like how these characters really should be. She's like so incompetent.
You
know, and like I gotta give it that one of like, you know, like that's kind of becomes a little bit of an issue, the line between the competence and incompetence, but that ends up being like, yeah, fair enough. That's probably what someone would do, having no idea how to do this, being scared to hold a gun and all this stuff, you know.
So Pat and Amber duck back inside, and he begins wrapping her wound in duct tape. Darcy congratulates Clark on the dogs' victory and sends his men to start the cleanup process. The two survivors look defeated at this point, bloodied and exhausted. Pat says, "I can't die here with you." And she then says, "Then don't. Feel free to just, hey, I want the rest of your pep talk."
Well, before that too, real quick, that sentence before I liked a lot, where they sit down and they're just like exhausted and in shock, and he's like, shouldn't we be panicking? And then he looks at her and she's just like, I'm so fucking hungry.
I love that.
And then he just, there's a pause and he goes, I can't die here. And then she's like, so don't. Like, it's just so past the point of shock and adrenaline that you're just fed up. Like, honestly, I can't imagine having like retail worker fed up frustration with neo-Nazis trying to kill you. Like, whatever, dude.
I couldn't differentiate that from the rest of these wooden performances. To be completely honest,
You're such a dick.
I turned to Amanda and I was just like, we're in a life or death situation.
She is one of the more, I mean, like I said, they're suffering from fucking blood loss at this point. They've just been running around for their lives. Adrenaline's been pumping since the fucking moment that everything happened. So
And the reason I stopped you, real quick, last thing, this is the reason I stopped you. I need to be Chad real quick. I need to be cringe and I need to bring up a Reddit thread. I need to talk about Reddit real quick. Chad's not cringe, but Reddit is cringe, and Chad talks about Reddit a lot. And there is,
fair enough.
you know, in this conversation, she says, "Give me the pep talk." And there's a quote that says, "Either way, we can't play real war." That's what he says to her at the end of that pep talk. And her response is, "Then let's pretend." And I saw this really interesting Reddit thread in this comment in particular, and give him the little pep talk, and then I'll give him the comment.
Okay. So he says they knew real war, so they played real war. Rick gets fed up and says, "Fuck it." Didn't care about getting shot. Didn't care about taking cover. It was hopeless, man. So that last match, the whistle blows and he just tears out there, full jackass and sneakers and cutoffs, and wipes out their whole team. Just kept running and laughing and shooting until they were all dead. She says, "Pretend dead. We're up against real guns." And he responds with, "Either way, we can't play real war." And she gets up to grab a marker nearby and says, "Let's pretend."
All right. So I don't necessarily agree with this. I don't think this is doctrine. I don't think this is what the movie's going for, but I really think that it works. If you're not like sold on this movie, if you don't like it that much, it's a fun way to look at it. So this whole movie, it's dumb people in outside of their element in life or death situations doing things that aren't like cliche tropes, but they're stupid, but they're understandable. And it's that right there. It's that they don't know how to play war, and these Nazis are these Marines. They're these tactical, like laced up, ready to go, hand signs, full arsenal. And these are just kids with paintball guns. They have like a shitty pistol and half a machete and a fire extinguisher.
Yep.
And they're just hiding, like he was cowering behind the stand.
Yep.
And then his friend's just like, "Fuck it, I'm Rambo. I am the fucking Predator. Like, let's go, boys."
Yep.
So this comment essentially says, so after the paintball speech, Amber gives the playing war is the only tactic that can work dialogue. This is terrible grammar, so I'm sorry if I started. Amber agree. Okay. So after the paintball speech, Amber agrees that playing war is the only tactic that can work. They've been playing it straight and trying to win the fight that they're all ill-equipped to win. The Ain't Rights had tried to fight their way out and immediately got shot and mauled. So this time, it's time to play war. This leads to a few big movie moments that are not as grounded as the rest of the film. Red Laces walk in on Pat, and instead of blowing him away on sight, wait, let's keep talking about the movie real quick. I just realized this spoilers.
Wait, I'm gonna
get. God damn it! This is why I don't try to do cool things.
I have to say this though, like the point of the speech is that it's basically like how comic writers jack Deadpool off. Is like, oh, Taskmaster can copy anybody's movements and fighting style and mirror them perfectly. But he can't do that to Deadpool because Deadpool's too crazy.
I just thought
you can't Professor X Deadpool because he's too fucking wackadoo, bro. Like you can't do that to him.
I thought it was essentially just interesting that like at this point when they're just like, "I'm hungry, I don't even care anymore." They're just like, "We're dead already. Let's just play pretend. We're not gonna win."
They were like already doing what he says in his story they need to do, which is just running out chaotically with no plan. He was like, if you run out chaotically with no plan, sometimes that beats people with the plan. So you know what we should do? We should actually show them the difference between strategy and tactics by concocting a very complicated plan. It's the Dark Knight Joker doesn't have a plan argument where it's like, yeah, he very clearly does.
You're right.
Like the difference between difference between strategy and tactics is like a high level, like you're in the moment, you're making these decisions, you think you're so smart, but I've seen 20 steps ahead and I know what to do to you. And that's like literally they're like, yeah, bro, we gotta embrace the punk rock chaos. And then they formulate a really complicated plan and they're like counting bullets and they know exactly what's in what gun at what time. They become Robert Downey Jr., Sherlock Holmes all of a sudden at the end
God damn it.
when they're
Well,
supposed
I
to be
don't
their
think that's
most exhausted.
You're
I don't think
correct.
that's entirely the case. I think literally that was like the counting down the bullets and stuff was literally just because they had shot the guns before, and then she counts the handgun bullets later on after she's had the clip.
Well, they're counting the Nazis' shotgun shells.
Yeah, because
He
they
comes in,
shot the shotgun. Remember, they dropped it outside. They picked it back up, but like they shot the shotgun. They know how many shells that were in there because
but
she
but
tells them,
it's
"Hand me two."
it's kind of the same as her going from crying over her friend to being like, "Look how
Yeah,
cool I can light
yeah,
this
I think
Yeah,
cigarette."
that's the same.
in
It's
the
like, so
next
are you in shock, untrained, unable to cope with the situation, or are you cognizant enough that even though all of this is going on and your mind is racing and you're having a
fuck.
5 hour panic attack, you still remember how many bullets are in
I
every
mean,
gun?
God
porque
damn
no
it.
los dos, dog. Like,
Hey,
I
hey,
was
hey.
gonna say.
Yo solo sé que no sé nada.
Hey.
I'm
Yeah, agua.
I was told by my business partner if I just start saying that to Spanish speakers after saying I don't speak Spanish, he was like they'll die.
Me amo Amos Austin.
Me amo
Amos
Tori
famous.
Amos.
Well, yeah, okay. I'll agree that the conceit of the plan itself does sort of like contradict that idea of chaos, but in that same realm, I mean, he still is being like chaotic, and it still is like a half-assed
I'm
attempt.
gonna
Like,
I'm
let's
gonna
lure
read
him
this
out
comment
here.
at the end when we wrap up, and
Yeah,
then yeah,
The
and
the
I'm
mo-
gonna
the
reiterate
most
it.
chaotic thing he does is going
yeah.
during it.
Yeah.
But he's trying to like draw him out, you know what I mean? And I get, and it is one of those things too where they show just how incompetent the
But
Nazis are walking in there.
it's like even drawing them out is more strategy than, yeah, my friend just ran out and started shooting and then he won. Like it is just
I think
like,
there was
yeah,
a mirroring in
that's
that.
some real life. That's some, hey, there's no respawn points in real life, bro.
The respawn point, that's good. All right,
Anyway,
so back inside the trailer from earlier, Darcy hands over a pair of red laces to Gabe and says, "We're just cleaning up tonight. You've earned these." And start looking for another house band. Gabe asks, "You think Cowcatcher's gonna talk?" And Darcy says, "I'm more worried about their habits." Then says a slur and tells him that there's a bad batch of dope making the rounds.
yeah,
They
and
fucked with
and
him.
Mm.
remember
Yeah,
he
he
gave
gave
them
them
heroin earlier.
heroin with other people's stamps on it, so as if
Yeah.
they in case they got caught.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
Yeah, that was
well,
literally what he says.
but even that is like, here's some heroin on you in case the cops find you. Make sure they find the heroin. I
Because
was
it's throwing them off the scent because they're fucking dealing heroin
I
But yeah, if
themselves.
I
they
think it would
find
be better to just not have heroin on you.
Well,
I
that's the
I
thing. He tells him earlier on. He says, "I'm not worried about him. I'm more worried about his habits."
But when he hands him
Beforehand,
the heroin, he does say, "In case you go to jail."
because he'll get a
no.
possession
He'll get
charge
it.
instead of
Yeah,
a murder charge or
exactly.
something. Like
Yeah.
if it's tied, he could just be like, "Oh, I just got this. I picked it up. I don't know why there's
Yeah,
blood on my
yeah.
shoe. That's crazy."
Exactly. It wasn't
And they'll
meant to.
sniff
Yeah,
over there
exactly. It was literally just
Uh,
meant to throw the scent off. It wasn't meant to like do anything
because
but
the
that.
cops
That's why.
were just there and they're like, "Oh fuck, you're a Nazi that just played
Yeah,
this show. Why you
yeah.
got blood on your feet? There was a stabbing."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'd
So
be
yeah.
like, I was there when the guy got stabbed.
It's convoluted,
I
yeah, because
slammed my
there was
penis in
like
the car door.
they
It just
they
ends up being
staged
another thing like
they
this,
did
like
because they
Fleischwolf, where
staged
it's like,
yeah, they staged that whole stabbing already. So yeah, he could have just been like, the guy got pushed into me and he got stabbed.
but what ends up making more sense is he wanted him to kill himself with the heroin.
Yeah.
But still the excuse he gave him to give it to him was weird and not a very good one.
But we
he's
had to
like,
remember that they
he's like,
don't like
yeah, I
certain
know.
people.
He's like, I know he's a heroin addict, and I know that some of this heroin, has fentanyl in it. So I gave him some heroin with fentanyl in it in case he gets arrested.
But he's
And
a
it's just,
Nazi.
I don't know if he was planning on him overdosing. I think that just
I,
shows just how
I, th-
fucking reckless the dude was.
I think he was explicitly planning on it because it's not their heroin, and they have a line of dialogue explicitly
No, it
state
is
that
their
there's a bad
heroin.
batch going. But like you said, it had other people's stamps
It
on
had
it.
it had another person's stamp on it.
I
He
I
tells that to Gabe. He says, "Yeah,
I
it's
just
my
I
dope."
just don't I just so it's either that all the lines about like the N-word dope
Mhm.
and all that stuff doesn't mean anything and him killing himself is consequential, or that the purposeful reasoning for it is that this guy did this murder, he wants him out of the picture. It's a lot easier for this guy to be found with a needle in his arm in his home than for the Nazis to like actually go kill him and take him out somewhere. So
Yeah.
it just seemed to me like he wanted him to do the heroin. Like he was like, "There's another
Well,
reason I'm
he's
giving
gonna
you
do the
this."
yeah. He was like he's gonna do the heroin, then, but that's the thing. Like that's how they like pay them, and he knows that he has a problem, so he's like, all
Yeah.
right, fuck it.
Well,
Like it's just a matter of time at this
the
point.
bad batch line is just like that. That's the like. I
Yeah, it
just feel
just
like
seems more nefarious than it
it's
actually
in
like came
there.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like he wanted him to kill himself,
Yeah, I don't know. And it could have
but
been the case too. And
he
again,
didn't
that's
want to.
another loose end that he ties up. He doesn't have to worry about fucking,
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like it
Yeah,
makes more
yeah.
sense. It makes more
Yeah.
sense to me that he was like, "Oh, this guy's a heroin addict. Here, hold on to this heroin for me."
This is
I'll be
this
right back for it.
There's a bad batch going around.
This is the moment that the bald white man became Heisenberg, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, when Darcy returns outside, he sees Clark administering a shot of to one of the wounded pups. He says this should keep him alive for another hour. I'd consider it a favor if he died with meat in his teeth, and hands him over to Jonathan. Once he walks away, Darcy says, "Disregard, just shoot who's left." That was that was fucked up, dude.
It's weird too because it's kind of like I just want to know truly like on a questioning basis, not even on like a criticizing basis. Is there some sort of like time release euthanasia drugs for dogs or something? Because
I was wondering about that. If it
it
was just
seems
like
like
adrenaline or
it
something.
seems like they're like this dog because I think it is true. Once an animal starts like killing people,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
hard to pull it back and
Yeah.
have it be like cool during
Yeah.
normal times. So they're like, yeah, this dog's killed a few people. We also need like just to not have a dog hanging around with us that potentially has DNA on it
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
inside of it,
Mhm.
So it seems like they were just like, yeah, this dog's been used for murder, so now we got to
Well,
kill this dog.
there's
So that I'm
multiple
just wondering what the shot was.
there's multiple dogs
Yeah.
that they show, but I think I assume that that was the same dog that got like fucking beat with a mic stand,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
like
That's
one hit
exactly
to
what it.
that to a
Yeah.
person's face, you're
Yeah.
donezo. You're out like a light.
Yeah.
So like I assume that like he was fucked up and like they're pretty much looking at him, assessing the damage. They're like, dude, you're going down
No,
tonight. So I think it was like
you see the dog's face. The dog is fine.
That's exactly what I
well,
was
he's
saying. No,
fine, but I
he's
mean like
fine, but
just getting
yeah,
beat,
in
like
like exactly
I
the
think it was
damage
just like a
internally that would do.
steroid or like an adrenaline
That's
shot to be like,
exactly
yeah,
what I was
he's
gonna
good for
say.
another hour, then we're gonna nerf him in the
That's
back.
exactly what I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
I
Yeah.
think
then
they're gonna kill him, but it's just like steroids or something.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. That's exactly what it
Pump him
read
up.
as to me. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the way he like ran away from like the feedback on the mic, which I understand from like a sound perspective, but like
Mhm.
to see like a bloodthirsty, like what you
Yeah,
train to
he
be
just books it out.
bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's kind of like, oh, you're going soft on me, you're getting put
Mhm.
down later. So they just juice him up to like get the job done.
Yeah. So the two thugs enter the bar. Gabe comes in behind them, and Jonathan tells him, "Behind the bar, better get started." Which I thought was an interesting, like little like checking of hierarchies type of thing, where they're like
Yeah.
they're the knights who go out and do all the dirty work, and then he's just like the guy who's supposed to fucking run the front door or like whatever. Like
Mhm.
it was just one of those things where like, oh, clean the shit up behind
He's
there,
the assistant to the regional manager.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny as fuck. Yeah, absolutely. So, the survivors play the feedback over the main speakers, which causes the pup to freak out and run away. When the skins kick in the door, they find Pat standing above the cellar door, wielding a machete, saying, Down there, you dipshit fashion punk clown motherfuckers. And he's like, what? He's like, Shazbot. And then one of them asks, who's that? And Pat turns to reveal camo patterns written on his face. He says, Odin himself. And he drops down into the hole while flailing his weapon everywhere, screaming wildly. Go ahead.
The face paint was so like weird and distracting.
But that's kind of what the Reddit comment was getting into, that I was like spoiling, and that's why I stopped, because I was talking about that scene. Essentially, I'll read it at the end, but it's essentially saying, like, for these characters at this point, and this was just like somebody just saying some shit. They weren't even like firm in it, but they were just like, think of it like he said, we don't know what we're doing. We're not equipped for war. These guys are literal like soldiers at this point, with how structured they are in this kind of lifestyle. So let's just say, fuck it, we're in a movie, and it's not necessarily that the characters think they're in a movie, so it makes them stronger, but it's kind of like the movie breaking a fourth wall. And it's kind of like, you know what, Chad, you're really breaking me here. I can't even really defend this shit.
I knew I would.
Oh, God damn it.
Fucking fight. Remember who you are.
No, I'm fighting. Joey, start saying the code. Wahlburger, Winter Soldier, must kill Reagan, Green
Rhinoceros
Room
Beetle.
Green Room
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
The Human Torch practices semen retention. You know, actually wouldn't be the worst plan for that guy.
Oh my God.
Disgusting.
Anyway, can I finish this fucking...
Wait, is his torch flaming because he goons so much that there's friction burn?
The two can sense that this is a trap, but don't want to run back to Darcy for help. So Jonathan jumps down into the hole with a shotgun and tells the other to come down after he's heard 2 shots, no matter what. We cut back to see Amber slowly rising from underneath the couch cushions, wielding the box cutter from earlier.
Like fucking Frank Reynolds.
That shit was dope, dude. Yeah, that shit was dope. Yeah, I fucking love Frank Reynolds.
The trash man.
Yeah. So Jonathan gets a few feet before he realizes what a bad idea this is and turns to call for backup. But before he can, Amber grabs the other one's head and slices his neck open. She grabs his gun and yells out to Pat that Jonathan only has 3 shots left. She open fires at him just as Pat is about to catch him off guard, causing Pat to duck behind cover again and Jonathan to fire off around at her. He calls for Gabe, but he can't hear anything over the power washer that's being used to clean the bar. Amber sprays the last of the extinguisher into the cellar, and Jonathan says, "Nice try." She then dumps the body she just caught, yelling, "Go fuck yourself." I love that. Pat gets his attention and draws his fire. Then Amber yells out, "1 shot left," as she lowers Emily's body into the hole. Jonathan thinks it's her and fires off his last round into the corpse's leg. He runs over to grab the gun that fell with it, but finds Amber standing above, holding the clip. She says 0, and Pat struggles to load up the shotgun with a shell that he's kept in his pocket, which alerts Jonathan, who lunges toward him. While the two struggle on the ground, Amber jumps down, picks up the handgun, loads the clip, and puts 2 in Jonathan's head.
In his neck and his
got
head.
him. Yeah.
It was a cool shot. The way she shot him.
Damn.
It was like fumbled and like messy, but also like super like it was cool. I like the way the way the shots went was really cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. She says, "Got him," and Pat hits her with, "Totally flabbergasted that motherfucker."
Okay, that's what I want to talk about. So what Chad said earlier, I felt this while watching it. Not what she did, but how she responded afterwards. So like they're pretending they're in a movie. They're like, "Fuck it, we ball. We're Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like we're ready to go, baby." And they fist pump like in Predator, and they're having fun with their one-liners. So when she drops Emily's body, like Chad said in the beginning, she's like downtrodden, watching her friend just get janked in the face by like some psychopath, and she's sobbing, but then she just snaps and she's a cool girl with a cigarette. I understand at this point, you're like, fuck it. I need to use your body to save me in this instance. That makes sense. You just got to do it. But it's not the fact that she dropped her friend down there and like blew her leg off with that shotgun blast by proxy. But it's like the fact that she had like not one, but like two quippy one-liners right after that to like, and now you're donezo. And then he's like, you're real flabbergasted, aren't you, my guy? Bang, bang. And I'm like, you just used your best friend that you were downtrodden about 2 hours ago, like cannon fodder,
She
to
just
do this
says
one liner.
got him. She just says got him. That's
it's
it.
just so like quippy and weird
I
right
don't
after
know.
like holding your corpse of your
she does do some like Marvel hero style
like
quipping.
imagine Joey pretend you're her holding my corpse up by the armpits as my leg gets blasted off by a Nazi shotgun.
Yeah.
You drop me and then you shoot him in the head and you're like, see you later, alligator. Like,
first of all, we don't have the same build, which is exactly why she was doing that. So I couldn't do that.
All right. You get the point.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, both of you. Both of you.
Both of them.
So
both them.
Both them.
Both them one-liners be kind of mid, but we carry
Gabe
on.
walks in with the power washer to see Amber and Pat coming out of the cellar, and he says, if I had any idea, and they ask if there's anyone left. He tells them everyone is up the road and that he doesn't want to go to jail. So they exit the building with him at gunpoint, and he leads them through the woods.
No. He says, I want to go to jail.
Are you sure?
No,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's why he's pretty much saying, don't kill me, I'll help you. I don't want to go to jail.
Yeah, he says, I don't want to go to jail.
No, he says, I want to go to jail, as in, you don't have to murder me. I will turn myself in.
Oh, that's why he goes to the cops. Right, because he says in the interview,
because they tell him you're going to go to the police and turn yourself in, right?
Yeah, Joey.
Yeah.
The director says in the Hard Lore interview that like, oh, maybe if a sequel did happen, because someone joked about it,
what happened
maybe he's reformed in prison. He's clearly turning himself in.
Yeah, that's the deal. He's like, don't kill me. I'll stop being a Nazi. I decided I want to go to prison rather than continue being a Nazi or be killed.
Well, I might have missed that. Like
I did too upon watching it.
I probably missed that then.
But like also that bleeds into like what I was gonna say was they show him with the power washer when the gunshots are going off and shit. And even before this, when he comes up to the body of the band member that jumped out the window, and Patrick fucking God, I almost said it again.
Just say Xavier.
I almost said it again. Xavier. Homeboy puts the helmet on and he starts seeing every slur
White
all
MLK.
at once. and no, but he says let him bleed because he asks if he's alive, and Patrick Stewart says let him bleed. Fuck him. And you see this like sigh, this like look of like, oh fuck, I need to change. Like this is it. This is my breaking point. And then you see him with the power washer when the gunshots are going off before we see him walk in the room. In my mind, he knows what's happening. He hears the struggle. He could have went in there. Power washers are not that loud. They're loud, but not louder than a shotgun going off like 3 times. And but
they were also there explicitly. They went in with shotguns. So,
But also, you know what? Thank you, Austin, because that's another way this movie is poo poo.
Real quick.
Wait. She just jumped in the hole. She's in the hole for like 2 minutes. He had that much time to come in the room and get all set up and like power wash half of the room. Like there's just not.
Well,
this movie has a distinct timeline.
Oh no, he was in the bar outside. No, he was like in the bar of like the venue room, cleaning off the blood from like the dog.
That's what he was doing. But when they climb up, 2 minutes after she dropped down and they executed this guy.
Again, you don't have any exact passage of time. That's just 2 minutes in the time of the movie.
But so what? They just like sat down there indefinitely before they got up. There's no reason for them not to just go turn around and climb up the hole.
I just don't know like how long the interaction actually was when they jumped down there. And
but literally of that whole interaction, of this whole battle back and forth, she is only down there at the very end. So it's not like for the entire length of that fight, the green room is empty and he could be up there and like plausible like reasoning. She's only down there for like a couple minutes. She drops down, kills him. They one-liner back and forth. We don't see it, but ostensibly she goes, here, get up, let's go up the thing. And then they go climb up the thing. There's nothing else for them to like do down there.
Yes. God damn it. All right. Anyways, fuck. God.
Am I gonna finish
maybe
this out?
No, yes, but I'm just trying here and I can't really fight you on that. But my whole thing was I just thought it was interesting. This isn't even like this happened. I just liked thinking of his character being like hearing the struggle and after seeing the let him bleed thing, just being like, they're gonna die and I'm just gonna let it happen. And he's just whistling and power washing. I just liked imagining that in my head. Like he knows what's bound to happen. He sees the fight in these guys and he's like, fuck it, we lose. And just that defeat was really nice to see in him.
Yeah, for sure. He just kind of throws his arms up, like can't really do shit. So they exit the building with him at gunpoint, and he leads them through the woods. They hear gunshots in the distance, and Amber identifies it as the residents. Pat asks what they're doing, and Gabe says, something you don't want to see. Pat then asks if he saw his friends die. Gabe tells him that he only saw 2 of them die, not the third. Pat decides he's going to check it out. They let Gabe go and tell him to call the cops when he gets to the nearby town.
Yeah, on the agreement that this Nazi who helped murder your friends is totally going to like make sure to call the cops.
Well, because he even asked when they walk away, he's like, do you believe him? And she's like, shh. Because they're like rolling up on him.
Yeah.
So when they arrive to the scene, they see Clark commanding a dog to mangle a body next to the van that they arrived in, and I want to say that was Reese's body.
I feel like they kind of like, you know, and I feel like it's not intentional. I hope to God it's not intentional, but they end up kind of being like, hey man, just like Austin, we think Nazis are pretty honorable.
No, that's not what I said.
They're like, hey, you know, he might be a Nazi, but he's not going to not call the cops when you say
their own code of conduct and their own honor system. Just like when you go to Kuman to learn math after school, you get the honor tokens. Like, you don't just steal the prizes on the wall.
Like Amber, Daniel, and Gabe all just being like, actually, we're really chill once you get past our love of the Third Reich. Yeah, okay, it's like,
okay, fuck.
Well, I mean, yeah, but Daniel was gonna flip though. That it was like in, you know, I don't know. It wasn't inherent. I don't know if they're ever going out of their way to be like, yeah, these guys are endearing characters.
I mean, except for that time where they were like, hey, she doesn't like black people. That's why she's a Nazi.
It's not that they're endearing the characters. It's just that it happens more than a few times with like, hey, we're all Nazis and we're bad, but not me. And then 10 minutes later, it's like, hey, we're all Nazis and we're bad, but I'm undercover pretty much. Hey, we're all Nazis and we're not bad, but I'm having a midlife crisis and I'm just going to go to jail. Like there is like a through line of this happening. And I don't think that they're saying that they're not bad, but they are doing that consistently. So it's kind of like, yeah, they're all bad, but like, oh well. Like
Zangief is bad.
I see both.
Zangief bad guy, but
I'm a dirty centrist right now. I see both sides. Real quick though, because that dog's chewing on his neck. We see like a cut here because that dog earlier ran away, like effectively ran up the woods. The dog that was on the leash in the bar. And then ran away into the woods. And then we see a cut here of that other dog. This is not the same dog. We see like one cut of him just running down the street. And I'm like, oh, they're going to come back to this because they just talked about the German word that is used to say like, say this word and he will attack. And it's like Frossen or some German fucking word. I mean, and I'm like, oh, are they going to see the dog and then like yell that out? Is it going to be full campy cheesy and it's going to like bite the Nazi in the nuts or something? And then like this has nothing to do with the ending. And it frustrated me. That just never comes back. They just show that dog run away. And the dog effectively, apparently at the beginning had like an hour left. And then like they set up this thing where he could say this German word and it could have been cool to bring that back. Because they just show the cut of the dog a second time, showing like the rule of 3 would probably pop up again. And then it just, nothing ever comes of that. And I really wish that I saw something with that second dog that got away.
He ties up. I don't know if you remember that one correctly. Because they tie up that dog.
Is that the same dog?
No, it's not the same dog.
That's what I'm saying though. But I wish that dog that escaped.
That's the dog. Oh no, you know what? You're right.
No, that's what I'm saying. Separate cut. He has separate dogs. He has other dogs.
Yeah, and I wish they kind of set that up because that dog speaks German.
No. You know what? Nope. You guys are. Austin is right. The dog that gets the shot is the dog that comes in with the last two guys, and they have the PA set up to ring out the monitor.
That's what I'm saying. He's
and
the one that walks off later on.
Yes,
Yeah.
the one who got the shot is the one who walks off later on.
Mhm.
So Austin is right, though. They did say this dog has an hour to live, and then the dog just goes on to not actually have any consequence. So either that was some sort of like drug to get it ready for the other shot that would kill it, or
and not just that though, but it just seems kind of like there could have been this cool setup because they show the dog, then they show this code word for kill in German, and then just like they're showing it a second time running away. They show it run away. They show it still on the run, and then that's just all we see of that dog, and it was just strange. It wasn't even like a criticism. It's just strange.
Remember the scene that's coming up right here because the dog comes back.
The dog that they tie up to the fence.
No. That dog stayed there. The one that walked away, that got the adrenaline shot, and all that comes back.
The one that walked away that was supposed to be alive for another hour or something. It just ends up being there's so much dialogue in this movie that didn't need to be there because it either makes no sense, contradicts with something else, or just creates a focus of something that ultimately isn't meaningful. Like he could have just
shit on it finally at the end.
The anger. Oh yes, I thrive. Okay, continue.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm sorry.
Pat pulls the gun on one of the thugs and tells him,
"I'm sorry.
Give me your gun." When he says he doesn't have one, Pat says, "I'll shoot you either way if you don't have anyone," which prompts him to throw his gun on the ground.
So he should have shot him.
Yeah, right. Clark ties up the dog at Amber's shotgun pointed request. They lead the men up to the road a bit where they find the crime scene Darcy had been staging. The goon says, "They got my gun." Amber tells him to shut up, and when Clark chimes in, she shoots him in the chest. "So we're doing that?" Pat says. "Why else would we walk up here?" She says. "I don't know. I was going to ruin the crime scene." She says, "Oh, I thought we'd leave a new one."
And that's what I think, that part I kind of like, because I think in his mind, he hasn't really killed anyone. I think she's killed most of the people.
He does. Yeah, he had the guy in the neck.
Oh, well, yeah, other than that. But like in his mind, this whole time for the last 15 minutes, they've been playing pretend. They're playing in a movie. And I think in his mind, he's like, oh, it's going to be Scooby-Doo. We're going to ruin the crime scene. We're going to run around. They're going to get tied up and we're going to pull the mask off in front of the police. And then that shotgun blast, that's why he didn't shoot that kid in across the van, where he's just like, of course, we're going to handcuff them and turn them over. Mm-hmm. But like, this is real life. It's just going to be a bloodbath, probably. Yeah.
So Pat raises his gun to Darcy and says, "It's funny. You were so scary at night."
Mm-hmm.
As Darcy turns to walk away, the other goon leaps at Amber and immediately gets shot. Darcy pulls a gun from his pocket but gets riddled with the last remaining rounds the two had in their possession. We briefly cut to Gabe walking up to a few people on a farm and telling them he needs the police. Then we cut to Worm sitting in a gross room, eating cereal and watching cartoons while his friend lies dead next to him from an overdose. And finally, we see Tad vacuuming his apartment while the interview he recorded with the band plays on the radio. Amber and Pat sit in shock on the side of the road, catching their breath and coming to terms with everything that's just happened. When the pup from earlier who ran away strolls past them to find Clark's body, where he lays down to rest. And what is possibly my favorite closing line in a movie ever, Pat weakly says, "I know what it is." She asks, What is?" He says, my desert island band." She says, "Tell somebody who gives a shit." And that's Green Room. That's my favorite fucking ending.
I couldn't agree with a single line of dialogue in this film more.
There was so much like exhale in that God. Like you've been holding it in the last like minute with force. Just God.
Yeah. I mean, hey, no secret in case you guys haven't figured it out. I don't really like this movie. I mentioned at the beginning. So before we go into ratings,
I mean, you're scathing.
Yeah.
Before we get into scathings.
I talked about a lot of my notes, so let me just
This motherfucker said he wasn't gonna do it. He's gonna do
Chad
exactly.
seethes,
Let me
Joey
just-
copes. I watch with a bucket of popcorn. This
I
is
found
beautiful.
I found the
I feel
thing
like
that
an
he-
audience member.
I found the thing that he said about like getting his permit taken, and that's why they didn't throw the show.
Yeah, he's
I
like,
don't
Yeah.
know.
fecal matter was involved.
I don't know any promoters that like have a permit to do anything, and also permits would be like by municipality, not by venue. So it's weird that he's like, my permit got pulled, which would mean he can't throw shows anywhere in Portland if he did have a permit for throwing shows,
Mhm.
but then he just throws another show somewhere else. So it's just kind of like,
It's at a Mexican restaurant that no one's gonna be at. So
yeah, I mean that's where most Monday, Tuesday night touring
Yep,
shows.
absolutely.
I once played at a bar in Portland called the Big Legrowski.
Oh, that's okay. We have a place in Detroit. It's like
And
a
it's
burger
awesome.
bar
It's
called
an awesome bar, don't get
Royale
me
with
wrong.
cheese.
Royale.
It's a
amazing.
Pulp Fiction themed
That's great.
burger place in
That's
Detroit.
fucking amazing, dude.
I
Why the
wrote
fuck wasn't I there when we
Because I
went?
forgot it was a thing and I've never been
The
there. And I always
fuck?
go, oh, that's that place I want to go to. And then I forget it exists again.
Oh man, we'll talk about this off mic.
Yes.
I mentioned it earlier, but man, Patrick Stewart didn't even bother to like change his accent. And it's as silly as an American Nazi is, a British Nazi is even sillier, and a French Nazi is like the silliest. You know, in terms of like who fought the Nazis the hardest.
They clipped the mustache a little shorter on the
Exactly.
side.
White flags,
But
they're waving white flags.
But in terms of who fought the Nazis the hardest, it goes in that order.
yeah, for
the,
sure,
the French, the British, the Americans.
Yeah.
So, like, as much as it's stupid for anyone to be a Nazi, to be from one of those three countries and then to end up as a Nazi is just like, wow, you really had to like purposely be an idiot.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's that movie, The Believer. I don't know if you remember that one. That was a fucking good one.
No,
it's about a Jewish Nazi.
Ryan Gosling, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Wow.
Ryan Gosling. Yeah.
I mean, that happens. Like, there's a Republican right now, like Mark something. I can't remember his last name. He's a black guy.
Oh, yeah,
and
his porn history.
Yeah, this just happened the last couple days. They found a bunch of like comments. He uses the same name on porn sites that he uses on like Twitter and YouTube.
And they're years old.
And he's literally like an anti-abortion Republican, but he's like posted on porn sites. I don't give a fuck if a celebrity has an abortion as long as I get to see the sex tape.
Jesus fucking
he said that like basically he's on porn sites saying that like slavery wasn't a bad thing. It's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
It's literally the Dave Chappelle skit of like the KKK leader that's blind.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So you're right. The Reese reminds me of a McPoyle.
Yeah, he does have a McPoyle energy for sure.
He's very McPoily.
Yeah.
Not greasy enough, but yes.
God. There's at one point they mentioned a guy named Skato, and I said Skato as a fictional punk name is an insult to the culture, almost as bad as the Ain't Rights.
Dude, I didn't even catch that. Skato sounds like the chimpanzee in MVP, Most Valuable Primate.
Hey,
That sounds
Skato,
like that
that's
name
my
you
primate.
fucking hear in that movie. Do you remember that movie?
No.
It was
of course I
Air Bud,
do.
but with a monkey, and
With
he
an orangutan.
skated. Orangutan, and he skated.
So Amber's decision to gut Justin isn't totally out of nowhere. I do agree that he needed to die. Like as soon as it became clear that they were going to kill them, I would have fucking killed him too.
Yeah.
But it's weird how quickly it happens, and then it's just never like she slits him up and then he must bleed out, but it's just like she slits him up and then he's just instantly dead. And
He's
then
unconscious.
his giant, well, but even if you're unconscious, the shock of that would bring you back. Like you wouldn't just sit there unconscious until you bled to death.
Yeah, if I'm taking a nap and someone stabs me, I'd wake
even
up.
from like a blood choke or being knocked out, you're really only out for like a few seconds. Like you're not out for very long, So it's just kind of weird that they never address that this guy's giant, probably like 300-pound corpse is in the middle of the room. like it never being an obstacle is
Mhm.
just kind of funny. Oh boy.
You're
Um
not hitting me
This
with
is like
solid
cinema
ones so
sins,
far. I'll
dude.
tell you, yeah.
I mean,
I love it.
They're not
these are just
strong enough for me.
these are little things, but come on.
Yeah.
I mean, this giant dude's corpse disappearing from the room for the
I don't
rest of
think
the
it
movie is
I
disappears. I
know
just
that
think that
they're
it
like
straight up disappears. You never see it again the
I
rest of
know
the
that there's
movie.
a quick scene after they stab him of a blood trail and they drag him away, but yes, that room is very small. So I can understand how like in the scenes where you see the room, you don't actually see his body anywhere. And
but well
for a
they
man like that,
also
like you'd see it
they
somewhere.
use every bit of the furniture, like the chairs and shit, to like break pieces apart on
Well,
the floor and shit. So they're
speaking
like
of that, the couch randomly becoming hollowed out when they start doing like high level strategy against the Nazis, that was also strange. Just like, why is there a girl sized chamber in this couch that like it doesn't
girl
look
size
it doesn't and the
chamber.
couch looks totally perfect. Like they
They
didn't
ripped
have
him apart. That's what it is. They ripped him apart like the furniture. He was like the blackface demon in Smiling Friends. They just ripped him apart and then like threw him in the fucking thing. That's why you don't see him. They stuffed him in the couch.
I
Quite
did make a
hollow.
note. This does make me want to play Last of Us 2. I will give them
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I was I was like, man, this does give me a hankering for like power imbalanced stealth where I'm just absolutely crushing the guys that should be murdering me.
Specifically
Yeah.
the scene when you're Ellie and you just power through that subdivision parking lot. Like you're going
Yes.
through all the back. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of when you said
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Fuck, those games are so good.
I know.
Why not? So when they randomly decide to go after the Nazis at the end and they tell him to throw his gun, like, why not pick up the new gun with more bullets? That, I mean, I do know that is pretty cinema sinsy, but it is just like that. I was just like, just kill them, just murder them. They're fucking Nazis. What are we doing walking
Yeah.
with them?
What do we just-
That's less of like a real critical thing, but it's just
Yeah.
like they're fucking Nazis, man. Just
Yeah.
kill them.
Yeah.
And then when they get up to the top and they see how they're like creating the fake crime scene, uh Pat goes, "Oh, you wouldn't try to guess like that. You give a
You
feel."
fucked up the rag.
It was just
Uh,
like, shut up. Do you think they care? Oh my God, shut the fuck up. Um,
it's just him
Mean.
talking
You're
some
such a
shit.
bully. I love it.
Jesus. There's no reason for any of
Oh.
this.
and then again, everyone jacks this movie off for being realistic, but Pat
Mm-hmm.
spends 2/3 of the movie with a wound that he should have been blacked out from this entire time. Um, and then also, this is actually just a genuine question. I wonder why they had Patrick Stewart. So when they're killing the other guys at the end and he's starting to walk away, he's clearly not planning on just walking away. He pulls his gun out while walking the opposite direction, like he doesn't want them to see he has a gun, and then tries to turn around to shoot at them after having walked like 20 paces the opposite direction
Mhm.
and given them tons of opportunity to like train their guns on him. So they blow him away. But I'm just
Yeah.
like, why what like I'm just so curious. Why was that the direction? What was this guy thinking in like walking the opposite way during a firefight? You know,
I
I'm
I
actually just
do
curious. That's not
I
even me
Yeah.
being like that's stupid. That's just like why that was a
Yeah.
purposeful decision. What conversation between these two guys led to, well, he should walk away before he pulls his gun
Mhm.
out. And you know, it's
I
just
think that
like,
line of like you were scarier at night and we're in the daytime, he has sent all of his like goons away to
Yeah.
help him. That arsenal is gone and now it's him, one gun that he can't grab because there's a shotgun and a pistol in his face, and one guy with no gun and he's like a kid. So I think like you said, they're Nazis. They're fucking pathetic. They're not really even a gang. You shouldn't respect them. You just kill them. They just killed all your friends.
Mhm.
In that moment, I think it was kind of just
that man's a
stripping
pederast,
back.
dude. Don't respect him.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of just stripping all that like that tension back because it's like once the daylight hits him, he's just an old racist man who's a
Mhm.
piece of shit and a
Mhm.
murderer. But like he's just a fucking Nazi. Just fucking shoot him. And like I think it was just a way to like really take the
To
you know
hammer that fact home.
yeah to hammer that patheticism in. That's not even a word, but we're
Mhm.
gonna pretend like it is.
I will act
But
like it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I
Yeah,
mean, I've
it just seems like there's some purposeful element there
Yeah.
that I don't understand, and
It
I
was
don't
very
just
Red Dead, like 20 paces north, and then we turn and shoot, but no one turned and shot.
like he kind of treated like the best I can come up with is like he wants them to think that he doesn't have a gun, and then he's gonna like whip it around
Yeah.
on them,
And
but
to be,
it's like they're already pointing guns at you and killing
yeah,
your
to be that
underlings. Like,
meticulous the whole movie too, and to just have that dumb of a plan was odd. But yeah, no, yeah.
there's something there, and I'm just
Hmm.
curious, and I doubt it's something crazy that would like flip the whole movie for me, but it's just a strange choice, but it's like something that kills me is when people online will be like, yeah, in Hunter x Hunter when Hisoka says like, yeah, I could for sure take that guy out. Well, actually, I think that he just has a lot of hubris and all this stuff, and it's just like, yeah, a human wrote this and created that dialogue. He said that because the author wants you to know, like, yeah, he could smash that dude. It's not important. Just fucking move on.
Yeah, last
You
thing.
know what I mean?
Yeah, and to add to that, before we move on, finally, the last thing that I want to throw out is like jokingly I brought up, a Walter White reference because it's a bald, psychotic white man, smuggled in
Fuck
organized
it, he
crime and all
bald.
that. Fuck it, he bald. That was a slow burn, and that kicked in a little late, but no, that was good. No, like the ending of that show, like when spoilers for fucking Breaking Bad. Like I don't really care at this point. It's like 12 years old. But like when he goes into the ironically neo-Nazi bar at the end of like season like the final episode, and he has that machine gun turret in the car. He has that same type of feel where he's playing this awkward like older man, and he kind of like turns, and he just gives that same goofy energy, and then but that's the thing, at the end of that, the goofy weird awkward energy has a point, and he turns, falls, and then it just sprays all the Nazis with the turret. But like Patrick Bateman over here kind of like sets it up. That was on purpose that
There
time.
you
I
go.
wanted to bring it
I
back.
saw it. I
I
saw
wanted to own it a little. But yeah, it just again, yeah, it just kind of falls, and there's just like, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that,
it. Yeah.
Dutch?
Yeah, I feel it.
Yeah. It's
All
very
right.
Red
Well,
Dead.
I thank you for indulging me and letting me praise it. I've indulged you and let you shit on it.
Yeah.
Joey
I was
certainly
gonna
is a
say
megalomaniac in Chad's eyes for liking this movie, we could say.
I was gonna say thank you likewise. We know we disagree on this. I didn't
Yep.
realize it's like really like your favorite.
It is.
Um and that's why, I didn't say people who like it are dumb. I said the movie is dumb.
I can't wait for Chad to be forced to watch Child's Play 1 and 2, man. That's my
Man,
green room.
Child's Play like Chucky fucking like I don't know, not now, but as a kid he kind of freaked me out.
Yeah,
Everybody.
everyone,
So
yeah.
that's the only
Everyone
reason
had toys.
I haven't really fucked with them. My brothers used to have the doll that Chucky is. You know what
That's
Was
I
it
mean?
the good
was it the
guys.
Buddy doll, or was it like the stitched up Chucky doll?
No, not the Chucky doll. The doll
Yeah,
Chucky.
the
Like
good
was
guy doll.
inspired by, yeah.
Yeah, the doll they put him in that then becomes Chucky
Yeah,
because
good guys.
it was just like a real doll
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
that for
yeah.
whatever reason they were like just get the rights to it and we'll
Yep.
just fuck one up and then we'll
Yep.
just so my mom used
We'll cover that on the Chucky episode.
my mom used to like go in their room to clean their room when they were younger and they'd have the doll like sitting on a counter and she'd just be like staring at it the whole time like do not fucking move.
That's amazing. All right, well, go ahead and rate her up, Chad. You
Oh
started
man.
off.
I mean, God, genuinely
Oh my God, there's so much to say.
it's
Who do I begin to thank?
I'm just like is it fucked up to give it a 0? Is it really scathing
That's
enough to give it
so
a 1?
fucking mean.
Jesus.
I really do
Jesus.
just like I just hate it from as soon as it starts. I'm just like all of these characters are paper thin and so unlikable. All of the Nazis are weirdly not Nazi enough. It kind of trivializes what Nazis are to just be like, "Bleh, they're just gang runners that occasionally say the N-word for absolutely no reason," as opposed to like if the band had been more than just white people, and they didn't know that these were Nazis, and maybe the Nazis didn't know who they were booking, and if those political things like actually were part of the conflict, maybe it would be different. But just using the Nazis as a boogeyman kind of downplays how serious and insidious they really are, you know? But yeah, I just really not a fan. 1 out of 6. Love you both.
Damn, bro. That's fucking
Do you want to
wild.
go lowest to highest?
I'm
So
no,
like
that's
me
you.
and then
You're
you.
next.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like the score rating. Because I'm not gonna give it a 6, but I do love this movie. I love this movie for the culture that it deeply respects. Um, I don't know. There's just it's been a 3.5 hour episode, man. Like
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
said is what's said. I
yeah.
love this movie for what it brings to the table. It brings what I love to the table in a presentation in a format that is just very caring and nurturing and respectful to it, the thing that I adore so much. and
Yep.
and with that, I just love it. I love it from the get-go. But not just before this conversation, I kind of felt it in a few ways rewatching it today. There are just a lot of loose threads that I didn't catch 10 years ago when I was 20 years old and I was the same age as these kids. And I was just like, hell yeah, brother, fucking punk rock. Yeah, kill the Nazis. But like, there is like clearly like a script here that I don't even want to say wasn't finished, but like wasn't cleaned up. There's just a lot of these threads that I'd like to see fleshed out. And if he didn't want to flesh it out on purpose, I wish he just kind of cleaned up those threads because it leaves me wanting answers. But at the same time, this is such a punchy movie. It's not a movie I want answers to. So I'm frustrated in that regard. But like overall, like the kills are fun, the characters are fun. They're very loose caricatures of characters at times, but it just works for me. And the violence is great, the tension's great. Um 4.5 out of 6. Because it's like a 5. It's like almost
Yeah,
perfect. But like
yeah.
there's just a lot of things that bug me.
Got you. Well, if I may,
You might.
if I might.
I was gonna say it.
So, yeah, obviously, like I started off, this is a very important movie to me. Um, from the minute that I saw it and the minute that the inciting incident happened, I had no idea what was gonna happen, and I was like enthralled the entire fucking way through. And then again, having these little touchstones in the movie for the people who are really about it, like you're saying, like the respect of the culture, like that sort of thing. That was what got me. I don't know if I brought him up before on the podcast, but I love talking about my homie, so I will.
Mm-hmm.
I lost one of my best friends in 2021. He had a sudden heart attack, and he was basically who the Tad character is in this movie. He was someone who absolutely loved music and this punk culture so deeply, and he was one of the first ones to like kind of bring me into that world and show me, hey, like this is how you can identify who's really about this lifestyle and who's like just playing dress up. And so he was my entry point into all of these worlds, and like this guiding sort of light within this culture for me. Like he was the one who really put me onto all of these things and like made me fall in love with everything that I love today, and to have like a passion for music, for art, for movies, for all that stuff. He was the one who really showed me. He was as close to a big brother as I think I've ever had in someone. And when I watch this movie and I see the things that the characters are doing, the way they're talking to each other, the way they're acting, I remember Sergio. I remember my buddy. I remember all of those things because those mannerisms, that stuff, those little stupid jokes within the culture, like all of those things are painted with such a loving brush in this movie, and that's why, like, weirdly enough, when I watch this movie, I feel like I'm spending time with my friend again. And that's what makes this such a impactful movie for me, is because it is a love letter to everything that I love, but it's also a love letter to my friend who showed me everything that I love, and so that's why this movie with me, for me, is just such a like crazy, sorry, getting a little choked up, crazy experience for me, just because I love what this music does for me, and then what it's done for people around me, and like people in my life and the people I love today, and how important they are to me and everything. All of that spans from this culture. It all came from these, like, the music. It all came from the artwork, the arguments about politics. It all came from all of that. And so that's why this is my comfort movie. That's why this is one I can just throw on anytime. I've seen this 3 times in one day back to back, just because it felt like a warm blanket for me. And
that's totally understandable,
yeah.
and I can respect the hell out of that,
Mhm.
regardless of me not liking the movie. I
Yeah,
hope you didn't
absolutely.
feel
No.
anything.
Absolutely not. No. Again, as a work of art, that's what I love about art in general, is because it is supposed to move you. It is supposed to do things. And if it stirs you one way or the other, then it's done its job. That's a good piece of art. The fact that we're talking about it and having this 4-hour discussion on it, that's an effective piece of art, whether you like it
Yeah.
or not. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Which way it goes, if you liked it or if it was good or not,
The
that's all objective
yeah.
or
The
subjective.
the best part of watching a movie is fucking arguing about it after.
Absolutely.
What's the point of watching a movie if you don't just
Absolutely.
argue
That's
after?
what I love doing about this. That's what I love doing the show for. That's what like, so this thing really did marry, like I said earlier in the episode, this married my two loves in life. My big loves is cinema and music. And so being able to marry those two things and bring them together, it means a lot to me. And it just reminds me every day, like, why I love doing this show and why I love doing it with you guys, in particular. It's a lot of fun. And, at the end of the day, nothing really fucking matters, tell someone who gives a shit. Like, I love that's the thing. That's what I love about that. It's just that nothing fucking matters. You actually don't need an answer to everything. And so this was just a piece of art that hit at the right time, the right moment in my life when I really needed it. And for that, it's gonna get a 6 out of 6. Get a 10 out of 6 if I could fucking rate it higher. But
You could do it.
yeah,
The rules don't matter.
they do not. But I really do appreciate you guys indulging me. This was, like I said, this is a very special episode for me personally. It is definitely one of the longest ones I've ever led in the history of our show. It's usually Evelyn or Chad doing that one. But
Mm.
I do appreciate you guys indulging me today and, like, sticking around this long. I apologize for the
Well,
late run time, but we had to
This
go
is
on. I
really
had to do
just
it.
like
Had
30, 40 minutes longer than normal,
I
maybe.
I'd have to. I had to do it, man.
this has been a good time, but just like the 784 dildos seized from P. Diddy's house, it's time for us to get
Wait, no,
out of
that's not
here.
real. That's not real. You're lying to me. That's not real. Please tell me that's real.
That's
Oh my
real.
God. I'm Googling it right now. I don't believe you.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we gotta end this fucker.
So
Wait,
we've done the
wait.
devil's
Wait.
work.
Yeah.
P
You look
P.
it up.
You're
I'm
fucking,
talking.
yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah. He could do that afterwards. So
Oh my God, it's
hit
real.
him with the plugs, Skip.
So we've been the Devil's Work podcast. I'm Skeptic. That's Sideshow. That's Austin over there freaking out about P. Diddy because that was his
784.
favorite artist.
Do you think he lined them all up like dominoes and then he just like bouncy balled to the next
Fucking
one?
disgusting. God
I
Like
hope
down the
so.
twirly, the twirly stairs? Like you put one on every
You're
step and it's like
fucking
boingy,
stupid.
boingy, boingy.
So anyway, you can
It's his
find
kangaroo
us.
tail.
You can find
Oh
us
my
on social
God.
media. We're on Facebook at the Devil's Work Podcast. We're on Instagram at the Devil's Work Pod. We're
Yep.
on TikTok at the Devil's Work Podcast.
Mhm.
And you can reach out to us on Gmail. Let me know how much you hate me. Let Joey know how much how vindicated he is in his
Yep.
views. Because
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in the world
You
who
are in the
dislikes this
minority
movie.
in this
Hey.
one.
By
Absolutely.
reaching out to us at the Devil's Work Podcast at gmail.com.
Mhm.
And we do have a YouTube now, so you can watch this
Yup.
in the Zoom view with
We're
us.
caught in 4K.
If you'd like, yeah, catch us in 4K and hit that subscribe button.
Yup.
Please, if you have the time, to give us a 5-star review on your podcatcher of choice. That would be fantastic. I think with that, we're out of here.
What are they getting next week?
They are getting a movie next week, and I'm going to announce that movie. But I want to say, TikTok specifically, I want you to wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy, hop on the Devil's Work podcast TikTok for real, and comment on that shit. Hop around to every video like it's each one of his dildos. No, but next week I want you to engage the way he gauges his anus with that bad dragon dildo.
Austin, get off of it.
I'm trying. It's stuck. No, but next week we are doing a movie. That movie is 2014 Zombievers, the greatest piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. I love it so much.
We need a good palate cleanser.
Yeah, Dead or Alive really had me on the silly kicks ever since I watched it. I need goofies, and this is the first one I thought of. So this is going to be a good one to watch because I haven't seen it since I initially saw it in 2014 either. Just like
I'm excited. This is going to be stupid.
Just like this fucking movie in 2015. So,
well, I look forward to hating it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so much. If you like Dead or Alive, if you like Dead or Alive and Cabin Fever, imagine if PETA made Cabin Fever.
I'm mostly just fucking with you because I know I've been a stinker today.
No, I know. But yeah, it's straight up PETA, Evil Dead, and Cabin Fever fucked and had a movie.
That's crazy. Well, I look forward to it. See you guys soon.
Goodbye.
Just fucking keep your phone on you at all times.
Do you think they have the pictures of each individual dildo? Like, how big were they? This is crazy. That's so many dildos.
They're being cataloged. They're surely being cataloged.